During the New 52, Red Hood was turned into his anti-hero persona that we are all used to today. This is the entire New 52 run of Red Hood and the Outlaws, which consists of Red Hood, Starfire, and Arsenal traveling into space and doing crazy stuff. I hope you guys enjoy it. This is the Comicstorian Full Story channel, where we re-upload our full stories from the Comicstorian main channel, which is where we do audio dramas of your favorite comics. Let's get into it. There are many things that have been hard to do in Jason Todd's life. Saying goodbye is one of them. He decided that it would be best for him to never say it. As he attempts to climb out of a sinking submarine, a criminal grabs a hold of him, telling him, "Give it up! Escape is impossible! We will die here together like men." Jason sighs as he points his gun at the man's face, telling him, "You did it again. You underestimated me." He pulls the trigger, pulling himself up, stating that people like him should have thought twice before smuggling nuclear weapons into Miami. Why couldn't they just have brought drugs in like everyone else? That way they wouldn't have to worry about people like him. He breaks through the inner wall to crawl out of the submarine, and a second later, it explodes. A few days later, on a small island, Jason rests hooked up to an alien machine. He slowly opens up his eyes as someone tends to the machines, asking where is he. As the medicine flows into him though, he falls back asleep. A few more days later, a beautiful woman with a slightly orange tint to her skin and fiery red hair stands beside Jason, asking if he's still not awake. Jason mumbles some stuff, and as the woman touches his forehead, he jolts up with his gun at the woman's neck, telling her that he knew that if he played dead long enough, she would. But his grip loosens on the gun as the medicines take over, and he asks, "How did I get here? And where are my pants?" The woman tells him to hush and rest, and that's when Jason's gun begins to melt from her skin. Several more days pass before Jason has the strength to get up on his own, and when he does, he explores more of the island. After a bit of wandering, he stumbles upon a giant, wrecked alien spacecraft, and the woman from before tells him that it's good to see him up. Now please come in. Before Jason has the chance to say anything, the woman explains that her name is Princess Corey, from the planet of Tamarin. Some have also known her as Starfire, and welcome to her home. Jason stands there trying to cover himself up, telling her, Todd. I don't really mean to be impolite, but I'm assuming that it was you that I must thank for getting me out of the ocean. This place feels less like a home and more like a hideaway, Starfire. And unless your decorating style is early shipwreck, I'm going to assume that this place crashed on Earth without anyone even knowing about it. So are you using a cloaking device? What's your power source? Starfire says that it's good to see him getting his strength back, and Jason goes on asking, I'm talking too much, right? I've never seen an alien before, orange or otherwise. Starfire glares at him, telling him that she's been in solitude for a long time. She's forgotten how obnoxious humans can be. You're right, you're being polite and I'm treating you like my own personal copy of National Geographic. Maybe we should start over. Thank you for saving my life, Princess Corey. Starfire looks at him and points over at a rack, stating that he needs to get dressed. There is some male clothing in there if he'd like. As he looks over, he sees the uniform that she's pointing at and realizes it belongs to Nightwing. He stumbles back, thinking of a time when he held Batman at gunpoint. But before he could shoot, Nightwing was there to stop him. Jason asks if this is some kind of a joke. Playing a sick game of dress-up isn't going to help you deal with, well, whatever you have going on here in that bright orange head of yours. Starfire asks what is he talking about. How can clothing do him harm? You are not the man who once wore these, and I am aware that if I needed anything beyond myself to validate my own existence, then I would have already given away my power to be self-defining. It's just that human. I have memories of him. Happy ones. We spent day and night together when I arrived on this planet. His name escapes me, but I will remember him if I see him again. But I do not define myself by the men that I have known, only by their clothing, and neither should you. As the night falls, Jason looks through the Tamaranian weaponry, telling himself that Starfire is right. His mind dwells too much on things that have no bearing on him anymore. It's also clear that she loved Nightwing, almost as much as, well, Jason hated him. Jason begins to take notes, thinking that this will completely change the war on crime. But with all of this amazing tech, all he can think about is how to use it to hurt people. Has he really fallen that far from Dukra's teachings? A short while later on the beach, Jason finds Starfire and tells her that they need to talk. There's something that she needs to know about him. But before Jason could get in another word, she grabs him, kissing him. He pulls back, asking what was that, and she tells him that it is one of the ways that her people assimilate language. Knowledge. He said he wanted to talk, so she assumed. Jason points over at a rock, telling her, yeah, how about we just, sit? As they do, Jason tells her everything. He explains that like Nightwing, he too was a ward of Batman, a partner. He was a superhero named Robin. He explains his history, he tells the stories of Red Hood, of his death, and they talk so long that the sun comes up, and at the end of it all, Jason asks if she's mad. She laughs, stating that that would be foolish. On Tamarin, they appreciate the past, they respect it, but they don't live in it. They live here, they live now. Starfire then begins to create dazzling lights with her powers, telling him that some people think that she is a walking nuclear reactor, a danger to herself and others. This heat that roars through her body is supposed to be there. But him, if he keeps all that heat inside, that heart fueled by rage, it will consume him. Starfire hugs Jason, and as she does, Jason takes a moment to think to himself. They don't always get to choose their teachers in life. Sometimes they are crazed vigilantes pretending to love them like a son. Other times they take the form of a space kitty who is smarter than anyone gives her credit for. Reminds him of himself. So the next day, Jason browses the internet and Starfire asks what he is looking at. Jason shows her a news article with the headline, American put to death in Karak. Roy Harper to be executed by interim Karak government, and asks, "Hey Starfire, are you up for a road trip?" The following day, the disgraced Roy Harper walks out of his cell with his ball and chain stating, "Ha ha! Sunlight! That's not something I see every day. What's the occasion?" One of the armed soldiers tells him that if he can believe it, he's got a visitor. He's got 5 minutes to confess his sins. Roy looks over at the portly priest stating, "I would shake your hand, but have I met you?" He says that he is Pastor Bierback of the International Agency of Amnesty, and these conditions are deplorable. Rest assured, I will be filing a complaint with the State Department. As Bierback takes out his Bible, he asks the soldiers if they can give him a moment of privacy. The soldiers scoff as they move away, and Roy tells him that he doesn't want to sound ungrateful, but holy God! Bierback opens up his Bible, and in the cutout pages sits Roy's folded up bow. And Bierback says, "Exactly, son. An open mind and an open book will set you free." Roy asks him, "You do realize that this is incredibly insane, right?" And Bierback yells, "Amen!" Bierback then pulls on his suspenders, making a clicking sound, and suddenly the suit and the face fly off, and Jason comes out, guns blazing! And Roy quickly snatches up his bow. As the two fight their way out of the compound, Roy asks, "What's on the other side? A Batmobile?" And Roy points to the rundown, barely functional Jeep, telling him, "The Bat Jeep! Hop in!" Roy stares for a moment, and Jason asks, "Are you speechless? Well, that just made my whole trip worth it, buddy." Once the two jump in, Jason steps on the gas and they get away from the gunfire just around the ridge. They pull up to 3 tanks, all aimed right at them. Roy says, "Well, I really hope we've got some good backup for your escape." And Jason tells him, "Don't worry, we'll be fine." A few seconds later, Starfire floats down, destroying the tanks. And Roy simply replies, "Oh, is she with you?" And Jason says, "Us. Yeah, but yeah, she's been with me as well." Starfire then asks if there's anything else that she can do, and Jason asks, "Well, if you could fly ahead and take out any bad guys or, tanks or anything." Starfire tells him certainly she'll see him soon, and Jason says, "Can't wait." As Starfire flies ahead, Roy sighs, stating, "She didn't even say hi to me." And Jason tells him, "She just has a lot in her mind. Me." So later back on the Paradise Island, Starfire plays on the beach and Roy says, "I thought people in Gotham hung out in abandoned opera houses." Jason laughs, "Haha, yeah, Gotham sucks. Psychopaths that live there deserve each other, even the bad ones." Roy leans in and whispers, "Aren't you worried about what happens when she finds out about you and her ex?" Jason asks, "What? On account that I tried to kill Nightwing?" Unfortunately, it is a non-issue. Turns out that Tamaranians don't see humans as much as sights and smells. They have a terribly short attention span for all things Earth. Seriously, ask her about the gang she used to hang out with. Doesn't remember them. Roy goes back to looking at Starfire and says, "That is interesting." And then a shadowy figure appears asking Jason for a moment of his time. A few moments later, Jason sits at a bar and he says that she is the last person that he ever expected to see again. "What's up, Essence?" The white-haired woman named Essence tells him that there have been several murders recently where organs have been taken from living bodies. Jason gets up and says, "You came to me with this? Really? Don't fall off the broomstick on your way home." And Essence tells him that there's more. The missing organs were removed years before the victim died, but there were no incisions. Jason stops, looking back, telling her that that could only be, and she responds, "The Untitled." Yes. So back at the beach, Roy asks Starfire if she's sure that she doesn't remember anyone named Dick, and she tells him no. Roy then asks, "What about Garth? Dustin? Vic?" And she grabs her towel, telling him no. And he's beginning to bore her. Would he like to have sex? Roy coughs. Wait, aren't you like Jason's girlfriend? She tells him that she is free to do whatever she wants, when she wants. And if he is not interested, Roy jumps up. No, happy to oblige. Is there anything I need to know before making love to a Tamaranian? Starfire smiles, telling him that all he needs to know is that love has nothing to do with it. Over at the bar, Jason sits back down, stating that if what she is saying is true, it has nothing to do with them. The Untitled is the whole reason why the All Caste was formed all those centuries ago. Essence says that she is sorry to state that the Ancient Order is no longer a consideration. Witness. She spreads little droplets on the counter, and Jason can see the image of a woman dead, and he asks if it is, and she tells him that he knows it is. He quietly yells that it's impossible. The All Caste is without any known equal. Nothing short of an alien invasion could do that, but why him? Why doesn't she deal with it herself? She tells him that he knows the answer better than anyone. She was banned from the All Caste. Please, Jason. I know you vowed to never return, but please, for me. Jason gets up, telling her, fine, I will, but tell me one thing. Why did you... But as he looks back, Essence is gone. A short while later, at the well of the All Caste, Jason kneels down beside Dukra's body, stating that he's so sorry that he wasn't there for her. He's sorry that she sent him away. He is sorry that he let her. It's at that moment that the blue light swirls around and the ghostly image of Dukra appears, telling Jason that there is no time for tears, man-child, nor regrets. An Untitled was here, more powerful than ever, and it broke into the Chamber of All. Jason says that he will find it. He will find it, and he will avenge them. Dukra reaches out, holding Jason's head, stating that he is always going on about avenging people. It's as if he learned nothing. Keep your heart free of vengeance, man-child, and I will see you in a better place. As her spirit fades, Jason can hear footsteps getting closer, and he turns back, pointing both guns. Finally, someone to shoot. As he gets ready to pull the trigger, though, he stops himself, stating that he can't shoot them. Even if they are animated corpses, they don't deserve to re-die at his hands. But at that moment, an arrow sticks in the back of one of the animated corpses and explodes. Starfire flies down, asking if it was really necessary, and Roy pulls back at his bow, telling her, the guy was dead! He totally didn't feel a thing. As the last of the zombies fall, Roy laughs, stating that it's like taking out the trash. And Jason tells him, no, they weren't trash. These people were warriors. They were teachers. They may have been the greatest people that I've ever known. And after bowing and taking a moment to pray for the dead, Jason tells the others that it's time to go kick ass as a team. After Red Hood and the Outlaws defeated the zombies, we cut to a different location, at the Chamber of All, where the youthful-looking boy, Saru the Proctor, sits on his throne. He looks up at Jason, stating, hey, didn't see you. And Jason asks, did we come at a bad time? No, that would mean that no one, no sentient being or single omnivore could have gotten in. Jason asks, you do realize that we wouldn't have gotten this far if... And Saru asks, if the All Caste hadn't been slain by the same Untitled that walked past me half an hour before you got here? Duh. What now, though? You want to run off after the Untitled, exact some cosmic vengeance? Jason tells him, this isn't about revenge, not yet at least. I was trained by the All Caste, which means that it falls on me to find that thing, the Untitled. Saru tells him that that's fine. They can enter the chamber. But before that, he is responsible for holding onto their most cherished memories as collateral. They can have them back, if they return. Roy tells Saru that he'd better not get comfortable having those. They will have them back. Saru points them off in the direction they should be going, telling them, I'm certain that you will. Soon, the three of them step through the door and find themselves in a twisted room with doors and stairs leading, well, everywhere. Jason tells them to take a moment and let it sink in. The Chamber of All can be a little overwhelming at first. Also, stick close. Starfire asks where they're going, and Jason tells her that he doesn't have a clue. And Roy says, great, not at all reassuring. Outside, Saru holds the floating memories, stating that he shouldn't do this. It is against the protocols, but those three are rather curious. Let's have a look at the aliens. There are no rules against watching alien memories, just a peek. Starfire's memory orb opens up, and Saru sees the young Starfire when she was a princess, being traded into slavery. How could this be a cherished memory? He continues to watch as the young princess falls in the mud, and a soldier tells her to rise as he kneels down. The soldier brushes her hair from her face, stating that he was her age once. She should be running free. He's sorry on behalf of his people. Starfire told him that she thanks him for his kindness, but if she could get a petition for a boon. The soldier tells her that if it is within his power, of course. Starfire jumps up, blasting into the soldier, shouting that she may be trapped here, but she will not suffer compassion beneath the boot of a spineless worm. The memory fades and Saru leans back. That was disturbing. If that is her most cherished memory, just how screwed up is this trio? Later, down below, Jason leads Roy and Starfire into a large open chamber, and Roy asks if the shiny thing on that creepy altar is the thing they're looking for, because they should probably hurry back. The dude looking into their memories makes him feel a little unclean. As Jason and Roy begin to walk, Starfire shouts for them to stop moving. This is a setup. Roy laughs. Oh, it's adorable that she's concerned. At that moment, spikes shoot out of the ground and Jason tells Starfire to fly up and tell them what they're dealing with. As Starfire looks at the giant monster whose spikes are spanning across its head, Jason sees the monster's face, telling her, never mind, I got it. I know exactly what we're fighting, Starfire. He grabs onto the monster's ear and shouts that they need to hurry up and focus on taking on this big green ugly thing. He opens fire into the monster's ear canal, and as it screams and shakes him off, Jason says that it's probably a good thing that he doesn't understand the language because he's sure that he'd be blushing. A giant tongue whips out, grabbing onto Starfire, but as it pulls back, Roy asks, "Is that thing eating her, Jason?" Back at the entrance, Saru lies on the floor holding Roy's memory, stating, "All right, I already broke one rule. Amuse me, Roy Harper." A vision of Roy fighting Croc appears, where Roy is clearly losing the battle. Roy gets up, swinging, asking, "Is that all you got?" And Croc shouts, "That is enough. Why won't you stay down?" Roy wobbles, asking, "Are you kidding? I'm Roy Harper. It doesn't get any downer than me." Croc gets ready to attack, but he stops when he states, "It all makes sense now. You're trying to get me to put an end to your miserable life. Death by Croc. How about instead you pull your head out of your butt and figure out how to get on with your life? Everyone knows that you got rolled by Oliver Queen, lost all your shares in Q-Core. Is this really how you want it to end? Beaten to death on a rooftop in Hell's Kitchen? You want to kill yourself? Do it yourself and leave others out of it." Roy stops. "For a monster, you're not such a bad guy, Croc." After picking Roy up, Croc says, "You won't think that the next time we meet." The memory fades and Saru says that was almost sweet. In a pathetic kind of way, though. Down below, Jason climbs onto the altar and Roy asks, "Aren't we going to, work on freeing Starfire from the big green ugly?" Jason reaches out to grab the object on the altar and he finds a snow globe of Colorado. That's supposed to be their big clue. And just then, the monster starts to move in a confused state. Roy swings around the monster's neck, asking, "What's that smell?" And a second later, Starfire explodes out of the monster's chest and she says that those were unacceptable accommodations for a princess. Let us get away from this place. As Starfire rescues both Jason and Roy, Roy says that this isn't too emasculating, is it? And Jason tells him, "What's really emasculating is getting killed. Get over it, Roy." As the group returns to the top, Saru looks surprised, stating, "Wait, you actually made it?" Jason holds up the snow globe, asking if there's any significance to this thing. Why would the Untitled leave this behind? Saru tells him, "No, you can have your memories back now." As Saru hands Starfire and Roy their memories, Jason walks past and Saru asks what about him. Jason doesn't look back and tells him to keep it. Once the trio leaves, Saru sits down and takes a look into Jason's memory. The vision forms, and Alfred tells Batman that Master Jason is sick with the flu. It wouldn't be at all prudent to allow him out on patrol. Batman says that Jason is smart enough to know when enough is enough, and Jason coughs weakly. "Yeah, that's it." But upon thinking it over, Batman tells Jason, "Stay in until you get better." Jason sighs, telling him, "Yes, sir." Upstairs, Jason sits down and Alfred brings him some tea, stating that they should really see what's on the telly. Jason yells that he isn't a baby, he can take care of himself. And then Batman walks in, telling him, "Taking a night off once in a while isn't a crime. What are we watching?" After Batman sits down with Jason, Jason leans over on his adopted father, falling asleep. Meanwhile, somewhere in Middleton, Colorado, Jason and Roy sit at a bar where Roy points out that he probably shouldn't be here, being that he's a recovering alcoholic and all. Jason sips his drink while a large group of gruff men tell Jason that he may not have heard, but he's sitting on the stool talking to his lady. As one of the men reaches out, Jason spins around, kneeing him in the groin, punching another in the throat, smashing a glass on the third's face. The bartender tells Roy that his friend here is cut off for the night, and Roy says, "That's what I've been telling you! You need to open up more, Jason, vent! Otherwise things like this happen." Jason leaves money for the bartender, telling her that he apologizes for the mess and they'll be on their way. As they leave, a sheriff stops him, stating that she would like to have a word with them downtown. So the two follow the sheriff, with Starfire watching from the sky, stating that if she is with them, there will be more questions from the locals than letting two humans investigating. It is such a wonder why a princess like herself is so captivated by these two court gestures. But suddenly, something cuts into her back, and a scaly hand grabs her by the throat, throwing her to the ice below. Starfire pulls herself out, shouting obscenities in her native language, when a giant green bat-like creature lands before her. The creature yells for her to get up. He didn't spend his parents' fortune tracking her down just so she could die before he even gets his talons into her. She tells him that despite his cowardice by his ambush, she is honor-bound to introduce herself. She is Princess Coriander from the planet Tamarin. He should speak his name whilst he has a tongue left in his head. The creature shouts out that he took the name Crux because he is a human who is willing to draw the line between them and the invading horde of... But Starfire lunges at Crux, stating, "You're just another xenophobe. Not too many of your kind left." Over at the sheriff's station, the sheriff leans against the wall, stating that he will never get away with this. And Jason takes her cuffs, stating that she'd be surprised. All he needs to do is go through her files for any red flags that will lead him to the Untitled. The sheriff asks if that's an indie rock band or something, and Jason sits down, telling her that they are a very ancient and evil mystical race, maybe a dozen left on the planet, who have been hiding among humans for centuries. The sheriff asks why would he think they came here, and Jason tells her, not they, just one. They never travel in groups. They usually hide in positions of authority to make it easier to cover things up, like maybe town mayor or a local doctor. And then he stops, realizing his statement, or they could also be a cop. With her arm inside of Jason's back, the sheriff says that he is one of Dukra's pets. It's to his credit that she didn't smell him back at the bar. The few remaining of their members have been hiding for the past 100 years. Why would the All-Cast break their truce with them? Jason begins stating, "It wasn't the All-Cast. You broke it." Just then, the sound of whistling arrows shoot by as several arrows find their way into the back of the sheriff's head. The sheriff turns around, shouting, "Idiot! Steel-tipped arrows are a petty annoyance. Only copper can harm me." Roy laughs, telling her, "Ha! Jason mentioned something like that." Another arrow is fired, but it's much larger than the other ones, with a large copper tip that shreds through the sheriff's head. Back at the lake, Crux slams Starfire into the ground, holding her underwater, asking does she know why he's doing this, why he must purge the earth of aliens. It all started long ago when he and his parents were on their way from their family outing. His parents were scientists at a university, so they didn't get to be home a lot. As they drove, a Tamaranian, a war cruiser, crash-landed on top of them. It seemed like a freak accident, but one of her kind just got out and left, unharmed. My parents, though, they died. I took up their legacy, and with their knowledge, I was able to become what I am now, a tool to dispose of the alien kind from our planet. Starfire grabs Crux by the neck, telling him, "You used your intellect to fashion yourself into a living weapon? Got it. I'm so sorry that your family died. I'm so sorry that you tossed your life away on something as pointless as revenge. But I will not suffer by the crimes of others." As Starfire throws Crux into the lake, he begins to swim away, and Starfire asks, "Really? Retreating already?" While she begins to give chase back at the station, the sheriff says that they are toying with dangerous forces here. "I have lived among the humans in this town for nearly 2 decades without incident." And Jason yells, "I only tracked you down because you're the one who lashed out at the All-Cast." With the sheriff's head stitching itself back together, Roy asks, "What do we do now?" And Jason says, "We should just leave." Back with Starfire, she chases down Crux, asking why would Crux attempt to fight her with physical strength? He knows that he can't possibly win, augmented or otherwise. But then she sees it, and it's too late. A Tamaranian transubstantiator. Crux is using her own racist technology against her. She has to get away before, but at that moment, she is hit with a bolt of lightning falling to the ground in a fiery blaze. Nearby, Jason and Roy see the flash of light, with Roy yelling that that's Starfire's energy signal. One of the Untitled must have gotten to her. Jason says, "I would love to help, but I can't leave right now." Roy gets up, telling him, "Then I'll go check it out. See you in hell?" And Jason tells him, "Unless there's any other place hotter." As Roy runs off, Jason peeks around the corner for the Untitled, but he tells himself that guns aren't gonna help this. The only thing that could stop the Untitled is the All Blades. So he pulls out 2 mystical blades from his boots, and the Untitled hangs from a lamppost telling him that this is all on him. Know that after I kill you, everyone else in this town that protected my cover will be moving on. This is all because you wouldn't leave me alone. Jason tells her, I suppose I could learn to live with the guilt, but I'm betting I'm gonna be okay. Back over at the lake, Crux flies up into the air to make his way to Starfire with a grappling hook arrow shooting out, hitting him in the leg. Crux asks, seriously? Arrows? Who would? But before he could finish, lightning courses through his body and he comes crashing to the ground. Roy steps down on Crux's head, stating, I would be the one who still uses arrows. The name's Arsenal. If it makes you feel any better about getting your ass kicked by a guy with a bow and a baseball cap. Crux struggles, stating, going to kill you. And Roy tells him, nah, I'm gonna help my friend while the big bad monster stays down. Anyway, BRB. Roy stabs an arrow into Crux to keep him in place as he asks, why? We're humans. We're supposed to be on the same side. Back with Jason, he and the Untitled begin to fight, with the Untitled yelling, you should not have come here. Dukra should not have dispatched you to instigate on her behalf. Jason tells her not to insult Dukra's memory. You slaughtered Dukra and the rest of the Allcast. As Jason cuts into her, the Untitled says, I did no such thing. The Allcast was the only institution in place that kept my siblings from an all-out war. Jason asks if it's possible that they have been, and the Untitled stops. Tricked? It would seem so. You're just a tool here, a particularly blunt one at that. Jason then asks why him though, and the Untitled asks, did Dukra not tell you everything about the Untitled? Maybe she didn't trust you as much as you think she does. Back over at the lake, Roy hurries over to find Starfire curled up in the snow. When he gets there, he slams a thermal arrow down to give some heat, and Starfire tells him thank you. He brushes it off, telling her, shh, you'll ruin my reputation. I'm supposed to be the idiot, so don't worry. We all found each other and we're gonna be fine. Starfire smiles, and as she looks up, her eyes widen, and Roy asks, he's right behind us, isn't he? Crux pulls Roy off the ground, yelling, I can't believe a human would side with her. If you want to live with this alien dog, then you could die like one. Back in the town, the Untitled sees Jason hiding in the fountain when she notices that it is just his helmet. She asks that all that's left of the mighty Allcast. Is he their final legacy? Pathetic. She should have eaten his heart. Jason jumps out of the fountain from the back, stating that she will have her chance. Jason then uses the All Blades to cut into himself to draw out the full power, telling himself that Dukra was right. The Joker, the one who killed him, Batman, the one who let the Joker get away with it, none of that matters right now. He's no longer an angry little pup. He is a warrior of the Allcast, determined to end the reign of terror that dates back to the dawn of man. Over at the lake, Roy begins to laugh with Crux asking, what is it? You don't have your bow. What can you even do? Roy unhooks the strap on his quiver, falling to the ground, and Starfire says that this is going to be a little loud. A second later, the quiver explodes, knocking Crux over, sending all 3 of them into the icy lake. Back with Jason, the Untitled says that it wasn't her as Jason stabs the All Blade into her chest, telling her, I don't care! He wipes his face off, telling himself, that's not completely true. There's still a question of who sent me, and seriously, you turn back into a human after dying? A few moments later, now that he has killed the sheriff, the townspeople gather around asking what did he do. They all quickly decide to get Red Hood. Back over at the lake, Starfire flies out holding both Roy and Crux, and as they land, Starfire gets ready to kill Crux. She says that they will see if everything he has done to his body in the name of misguided vengeance will protect him from the living flame of a star. And Roy asks, isn't that a bit overkill? Starfire stops. Is it? Just then, Jason runs by yelling that he doesn't know what they're doing, and he isn't even going to ask, but we have got to get the hell out of here. Starfire asks, wouldn't it be easier to explain what's going on? And Jason shouts, less babbling, more getting the hell out of here. And so, Starfire picks up Crux. The 3 escape the angry mob. Not long ago in Hong Kong, Jason Todd stands atop the coffin of the crime lord asking if he's got everyone's attention. The room full of mobsters silently stare as Jason takes out the All Blade from the corpse, telling them, good, I'll keep it simple. All of you represent the 7 crime families of Hong Kong. I don't care how much money you have or honestly how you make it, but starting today, I get 10%. Questions? When he finishes, an old woman shouts, someone, everyone, kill this little snot punk. And after that, well, everyone died. Starfire laughs, stating that she thought she had a temper. And Roy wipes a tear, stating, you have some of the best stories, Jason. So you killed Susie Sue's entire crime family, and that's why she has it out for you? Jason goes on telling him, no, well, Not really. After that, family after family came to try and claim the power that I had gained. They all met the same fate as the first groups, and that's when Miss Sue came into town. On my way out of town, I killed everyone in her gang except for Susie and her father. Was it my way of trying to make amends with Hong Kong for all the trouble I caused? Maybe. But of course, I should have offed the two of them as well. I was just hoping that they'd see the light, but nope. After killing everyone on their gang, they just wanted to get revenge on me, which is why we're in Gotham. After my run-in with Susie and shooting her, Susie's father shipped her to one of the best hospitals for gunshot wounds. Now she's alive and has taken the entire children's ward of Gotham Hospital hostage. She said that I have 2 hours to turn myself into her or she's going to kill every kid there. That was 1 hour and 46 minutes ago, guys. Starfire says that the ship scanned the building and there are roughly 24 heavily armed men inside, all with their weapons trained on the innocent children. Jason tells her not to worry. We didn't come here for nothing. A few moments later, inside of the hospital, the elevator door dings for the floor where the children are, and Roy walks out asking if this is the cosmetic surgery ward. I can't tell in this light, and I really hate my nose. One of the guards points their gun at him asking, "Did you really think that you'd take us on by yourself?" Roy snickers as he looks towards the window, and everyone else looks and they see Starfire floating there. One of the men shouts, "The boss lady didn't say nothing about no aliens!" Starfire holds out her hand, and with a fiery burst of energy, the window shatters and the men turn into ash. She steps in asking, "Was that too much?" And Roy tells her, "No way! Those guys are here to kill a hospital full of children. They got what they deserve." While Roy and Starfire begin evacuating, Jason makes his way to the floor where Susie is staying, and he notices as the elevator doors open that there's nobody there. He waits for a moment to see if there's any movement, but then he hears screaming from up above. He sighs. Really? And then Susie comes crashing down through the elevator roof, snapping the support cable. She shouts, asking, "Do you think that your mask is going to keep your head from being crushed?" Jason asks, "What's the plan here?" We both fall down and go splat. As Susie yells that she has 600 pounds of white-hot rage. "I will survive this, even if you won't." As the elevator falls, it suddenly stops. And up above, Starfire holds onto the cable, saying that she trusts that she was able to stop the descent in time. Susie charges out of the elevator with Jason latched onto her, yelling, "It don't end like this! It doesn't end until you're dead!" Jason plants his feet to the ground, and using Susie's momentum, he flips her over onto his back, quickly pressing his gun to her head. He tells her that this is her chance. She needs to accept that what happened in the past is the past. Let it go. Susie says never. Not for a second. As long as she is still breathing, she will come back bigger and badder each time. She won't stop ever. So then Jason tells her that he respects her decision, and he pulls the trigger. Once everyone meets back up on the roof, Roy asks, "Seriously? That's it? We came, saved the kids and the doctors, and we just leave? This place used to be your old haunt, man. You're not even gonna show us around Gotham?" Jason tells him, "No. They'll get back in the damn ship." As the team takes off, a distress signal comes out of the Batcave and Alfred's face appears on the screen. Jason gets ready to end the transmission, but Alfred states that tonight, the Court of the Owls have sent their assassins to kill nearly 40 people across the city. The court's targets are all of Gotham's leader, the people who shaped the city. I have uploaded a list of the targets' names here. The court's assassins, the Talons, are already en route to their targets. They are highly trained killers with extraordinary regenerative abilities. I will keep this line to the cave open as long as I can manage. Roy tells him that from what it seems like on this call that they intercepted, a lot of the Bat Buddies already have this covered. But before the line is cut, Timothy Drake says that he has intel that they have an eavesdropper. "Hey, if you could hear us, Jason, we could use your hand." Starfire asks Jason if he knows this boy, and after a few moments of silence, Jason tells her, "Yeah, I do." Starfire quietly asks Roy if he's staying or leaving, and Roy says, "You've got to be kidding. No way in hell Jason is going to stick his neck out for." But Jason stands up at the controls, stating, "The information dump that Alfred sent out. Look through for a person of interest who hasn't been covered by the bat mites." Roy sighs, sitting down, and he scans through the files. And he says, "There's one in Chinatown that they aren't covering. Victor Freeze. Cool." A short while later, over in Chinatown, Starfire kicks her legs as she lays across a stone gargoyle, stating that she doesn't understand. "If you hate Batman so much, Jason, why are you helping him?" Jason tells her that this isn't about him. It's about a city under siege by a group of maniacs. It isn't Gotham's fault that Batman happens to live here. Starfire then smiles, stating that she will say this about the man's work. It is a thing of beauty, though it cannot be healthy for those who live below. The three look at the giant pillars of ice, and Jason says, "Yeah, it's gonna be fun." He leaps off of the ledge with Starfire asking where is he going, and Roy stops her, stating, "He's fine, just watch." Jason fires his grappling gun, swinging down safely onto the ice while Roy and Starfire follow. Jason tells them that they need to get as many people out of here as possible. He'll handle Freeze. Roy then asks, shouldn't they all be going together? And Jason says, no, because we're not together. I'm here on family business. You just tagged along. Now go! He starts to make his way through the frozen city, asking himself, why is he doing this? He's supposed to be taking Batman out, not helping his cause. If it wasn't for the ice castle here, you'd think this whole thing was a setup to get him arrested, or... As Jason gets closer, he hears Freeze shout out, "How dare you raise your hand on me?" And Jason says, nope, not a setup. He climbs through the opening to see Freeze and the assassin fighting, and the assassin yelling, "No, it is you who will die tonight, now that you've chosen to no longer serve the Court of the Owls." Jason jumps between the two of them, firing his gun, stating, "I don't really care who did what or why, but this ends now." Freeze shouts, "I do not need your help. Allow me to make my point in a way you will understand." Jason holds out his gun and his hand begins to freeze with ice as it begins to travel up his arm. He yells out in pain, stating, "I'm here to help you, damn it!" And he bashes Freeze with a frozen arm. Freeze groans, telling him, "Apparently you're helping the wrong person. The assassin got away." Jason looks back to see the assassin escaping through the window and he sighs, "All right, be right back, but if you make me track you down, I'm gonna kill you myself." He follows through the window after the assassin, and as he catches up, he tells him that this won't take but a moment. "I just have to kill you and get back to Mr. Freeze." The Talon assassin spins back, grabbing onto Jason, telling him that it's too late, and the two come crashing down onto the decorative dragon float. The assassin tells them that many have served the Court of the Owls, and they've had the honor of giving their lives as a Talon. Whether they have died in the line of duty or retired after their all too brief tenure, on this night alone we have risen again to smite our master's enemies. Just then the assassin lifts his arm into the air, holding out a knife and bringing it down, chipping away at Jason's mask. He then goes in for a second strike, but an arrow whizzes by, shooting through the assassin's hands. He shouts out in pain, asking, "Who is foolish enough to attempt a rescue?" Jason swings his frozen arm, cracking the assassin, stating, "The guy has to. He's the designated driver." The assassin quickly jumps back, retreating as Roy and Starfire land, and Roy asks if they're going after him. Jason shouts, "No! I've got it! If you're both done with the evacuation, then deal with this freezing at the source." Jason begins to follow the assassin, and Roy lets loose another flame arrow, melting Jason's hand. And Jason tells him, "Right, thanks." Jason quickly catches back up to the assassin, and as he looks around, he notices certain things that he is passing, like the billboard for Haley's Circus. The way the assassin moves, it's like he carries himself like a acrobat. The flourish, the flare, he was an acrobat. As the assassin stumbles into his landing, Jason asks if this empty lot has meaning to him, and the assassin yells back, "Do not speak as if we know each other." Jason tells him, "Come on, you led me here. Why? This was the old circus, and I'm gonna take a guess and say you ran away from home and joined the circus because you believed the line that they fed every 10-year-old boy, that it's all magic and sunshine and anything is possible. What happened here? What did the court make you do here? What made a young circus performer sign his body and soul to the Court of the Owls?" As Jason steps forward, the assassin steps back in his own defense, stating, "No, not my soul, but my body, yes. It has become a mockery upon my return to life." Jason laughs, telling him, "You're preaching to the choir, buddy. I myself have been to the other side and back." After a few moments, the assassin falls to his knees, taking off his mask. "My name is Xiao Long. This is my face. As a child, I was forged into a weapon. My every thought and deed dictated by the Court of the Owls. Even my death came in a time and place of their choosing. This time, I want a say in my execution." Jason also takes off his helmet, telling him, "We're more alike than you realize. I was dead once. I get it. Starting over is scary as hell." Zhao tells him that he doesn't want to start again. He wants to end this life on his own terms. Surely he can understand that. So Jason holds up his gun to Zhao's head, and Zhao smiles. "Please." A short while later, atop of the GCPD, Batgirl stands there stating, "Took out my talent and dragged her up over here. Check. Replace the owl signal with the bat signal. Check. What to do now?" A voice then yells at her, "Hey, nice legs." Batgirl turns back glaring, telling him, "You have 2 seconds to convince me not to throw you off this rooftop." As Jason leans back on the railing, Batgirl notices a knocked out Mr. Freeze and asks if he... Jason says, "What? Can't be nice every once in a while?" She tells him that this doesn't absolve him from every insane act that he committed. If she ever sees him again, he'll be finding himself in a cell right next to Freeze. Jason gets up, jumping over the ledge, telling her, "Better bats have tried." Speaking of, if Bruce survives the night, tell him he's welcome. The following day, in the early hours of the morning in Miami, Jason meets with a flight attendant that he met while traveling named Isabel to try and take his mind off things. Since he's staying at the hotel and she is here because of a layover, Jason figured that he would meet up with her for some drinks and conversation. She talked, he lied, just like every other date that he's been on. And as he walks towards the hotel, he yawns, stating that he should probably call her a cab. He doesn't want her missing her flight and all. Isabel leans in, asking, "She doesn't?" Before Jason can get another word out, she throws herself on him, kissing him on the lips. He begins to lean into himself, and then something catches his eye. In one fluid motion, Jason masks up and tells Isabel to stay put. He opens fire on the alien. The alien looks at his chest, asking, "Were those projectiles supposed to hurt?" And Jason says, "Ideally, yeah." The alien then swings his battle axe, and as Jason ducks out of the way, Isabel says that he really doesn't own a dry cleaning business, does he? Before the two can go back at it, Starfire flies down with nothing but a single blanket, yelling, "Hata! You dare place your hands on the second daughter of Tamarin! Show yourself!" The alien quickly kneels down, telling her, "I beg your pardon. No, 1,000 pardons. Humble Orn should have called ahead." She wraps her arms around Orn, yelling that it's been years. It's a wonder she didn't recognize him. Roy slides down, asking, "So, do you two know each other?" And Jason tells him, "Apparently." Starfire asks Orn to what does she owe this planetfall, and Orn tells her that there is a black shadow that has fallen upon Tamarin. None but her might lift it. Roy laughs, "Ha ha! Oh please, peddle your tale of woe somewhere else. She's not going anywhere." And after a brief pause, Starfire says, "Very well, let's go." And then Roy, completely ignoring what she said at first, responds with, "Yeah, take a..." Wait, what? Orn lifts his arm and speaks to his wrist communicator, stating that he'd like to commence teleport. Starfire tells everyone not to be distressed. She will return. And Roy says, "Nah, no way. You're not going anywhere with an alien that looks like Moby Dick." As the teleportation commences, everyone is pulled into the force field, and Starfire says, "As you wish, Roy." Once everyone appears, Orn motions towards the portal, stating that her presence is urgently requested on the bridge. "It is better for the captain to fill you in, princess." Starfire casually strolls through, still draped in nothing but her blanket. And as Orn follows, leaving Jason and Roy alone, Jason yells, "Seriously?" He walks towards the portal, but Roy tugs on his arm, telling him, "You should probably take a look around first, Jason. Because I'm pretty sure that girl, what's her name? The one that you wanted to hide from everyone?" Jason says, "Isabel's right behind me, huh?" He turns back and sees the girl that he was telling that he was a owner of a dry cleaner business to, and tells her, "I can explain this." She begins to shout, "Oh, because you're so credible right now." As Starfire changes and boards the bridge, she thinks to herself that it has been years since she was aboard the Starfire. Despite whatever horrors they may face, it's nice to be home. Captain DePaulo stands up, stating, "Your chair, Commander." Starfire begins to tell him that he knows the ship belongs to, but he stops her, telling her that they both know that he was only ever keeping the seat warm. However, he must warn her, things are grim. Before he goes on, Jason runs in yelling, "Okay, we gotta send Isabel home, like right now." And Starfire tells him no. She would be dispersed to the cosmic winds if they tried to teleport her without docking first. So they have her word. The young lady will not be harmed. DePaulo clears his throat and begins to state that less than 3 days ago, the intergalactic scourge known as the Blight sent their first wave against the Tamarin capital. As they know, this race of vile, ever-decaying chaos bringers live only to thrive off the bones of civilization. So it is odd that after their initial attack, they have taken out all of the planetary's primary defense shields and have done nothing else. It's almost as if they're waiting. Starfire asks, what are they waiting for? And DePaulo tells her, "You, milady." Just then there's a loud thoom as one of the walls explodes and Starfire yells, "Bring up the shields! Kitten, bring us about! Orn, open a signal to our assailants!" As a fleet of Blight ships surround the vessel, Starfire calls out over the comms, "This is Princess Coriander, second daughter of the throne of Tamarin. You are hereby commanded to lay down your weapons and power down. Do this, and I might allow you to live. Once the battle begins, my generous offer will be retracted." Jason laughs. "Who knew Starfire was such a badass?" And Roy tells her, "Yep, that's my girl." Now, I'm going to break up our story a little bit right here just to kind of give you an understanding as to where we are right now, but a little bit of time is going to pass, and we're going to jump to after Starfire's declaration of war. Roy finds himself being beaten while held hostage by a Blight commander. The commander tells him that he is a stubborn meat sack, and Roy laughs. Really? This is what passes for torture on your world? Psst, whatever, man. The commander reaches down, touching Roy's bare skin, and as it begins to burn, the commander says, "Hopefully this will meet your higher standards, human. Now this is your last chance. Where are you hiding, Coriander? Why is she once again involving herself in the affairs of Tamarin?" Roy lets out a laugh. Now those are two very excellent questions. Guess there's no need for me to protect her any longer. Not after the way she left me behind. See, me and my friend Jason, we joined her on this trip when she learned about what happened to her planet. We've never seen her in a position of power like that, and believe me, that was pretty awesome. Jason had his hands full with Isabel after their never-ending date. I mean, she just conveniently was around when he teleported her up. But hey, whatever, that's how we get a fourth member of our crew. And the battle between the SS Starfire, not to be confused with Starfire herself, but her ship, well, we don't need to go over how that went. It's not like she didn't give them a chance to surrender. T'Pollo helped maintain control of the ship, while the navigator, Kitten, did her thing. After a short while, after the battle, everyone cheered, except for Starfire. You see, she was sad. Call it human intuition, that I could tell. She told everyone that they'll hold back their victory chance, that their war was not over yet. And once they make it into orbit and free their people, including liberating her sister, they'll learn why Blight attacked in the first place. Now at this point, everyone knew that they had to do something. Starfire conferred with her human friends, which made the alien ones a little upset. Starfire asked them for their advice. She told them that she actually had no interest in fighting for her homeworld. And while the humans and Starfire huddled around the sickbay, Starfire explained why she had such a disdain for her homeworld. She told us her origins. She told us where it all began, which actually put perspective on quite a few things for us. Her sister, Commander, had given her up in order to protect their people. She was traded for the freedom of the homeworld. And that's enough to make anyone's blood boil, right? But it wasn't the torture from the aliens that made her the way she is, that cold-hearted alien that burns everything. It was because she was there, because her sister allowed it to happen. Are you following my story here? She endured all that the aliens threw at her so that she could get closer to the one running the show. And that's when she took a handful of other prisoners and broke out. When she returned to Tamarin, Starfire wanted to kill her sister. Everyone called them heroes for freeing them, but Starfire knew that she couldn't stay in their planet any longer. So it's no wonder why she doesn't want to help, right? Over 1 billion people on that planet, and not one of them, not one, did anything to save her. The Blight commander steps back. By the grime, what in the name of Postulus are you even talking about? I asked you what became of Coriander. I don't give a flying frack about you and your friends or something called an Isabel. Roy stops him. Hey, who's the one telling the story here? Just then a voice calls out from the shadows that he is just stalling. He believes she's going to find him. The person then leaps down, telling him she won't. She can't. Not in her nature. She has only ever been interested in herself. It's been that way since we were children. Now tell me, Harper, are you prepared to sacrifice your life for hers? Roy sees the person walk forward. Well, hello, kitty. And Commander grabs him by the throat, yelling, Enough! I tire of your games, human. I want to talk to my sister, now! Roy begins laughing, telling her, That's gonna happen a lot sooner than later, but she probably won't be enjoying the experience as much as I am. We go right back to Roy being held hostage by Commander and her thugs. So, Starfire was still feeling a little wound up from the battle and still undecided whether she should go help the planet or not. Well, before we even really had time to talk about it, T'Pollo said that he needed to talk to Starfire regarding some personal matters, so I decided to go help Kitten with repairs to the ship. The shields were badly damaged, so I gave them some Roy Harper insight, and Kitten really wasn't having any of it until she suddenly agreed. She said that my idea was crazy, but it might actually work, and it sure as heck did. The one thing we didn't realize was that by diverting some of the ship's power to support the shields, we had inadvertently allowed some of the baddies to teleport onto the ship. Everyone got ready for a fight, but when Blight attempted to teleport Starfire away, I jumped in the path. And that's how your sister's favorite boy toy ended up on the Blight mothership. Commander then asks, "Are you implying that Coriander and you have been intimate, as if she hasn't already brought enough humiliation to the House of Tamarin?" Roy then says, "Okay, let's not be rude about it." The Blight Commander tells Commander that she best not overstep her boundaries. Despite the considerations that they offer her as a member of the royal family, she is just as much a prisoner as the tattooed meat sack. Commander snaps back that for all of their vaunted tactics, it was her who got the information out of him. Roy then stands up stating, "Oh wait, just remembered. In all of the torture and excitement, I had almost forgotten. I only let myself be captured so I could do this." As Roy tackles into Commander, the two then begin to teleport away when suddenly they find themselves popping up in the teleporter room of the SS Starfire. Orange shouts to raise the shields. No one gets in or out of the ship without permission. Next, fly the ship into the maw of the Blight mothership. They won't attack the Starfire without damaging their own ship. Commander stands up asking, "You did all of this to save me?" Starfire tells everyone, "I would like a moment alone with my sister." Jason then asks if that's really a good idea, and Orin says that he has to agree with the human, and Roy tells them that it'll be fine. Let the two sisters talk it out. They won't kill each other, maybe. As everyone leaves, Starfire and Commander look at each other, and Commander begins to cry as she hugs her sister. She says that she is so sorry. She had to pretend to work with the Blight. It was the only way to stay alive while waiting for her. Starfire tells her that she never doubted her for a second, and Commander pulls away, telling her that she is not worthy of her kindness. Because of her, she was sentenced to a prison world for years. Starfire grabs onto Commander, telling her that she was a child entrusted with the throne, with the responsibility of their people. She did not have any other choice. Commander wipes her face, telling her that her forgiveness means more than she'll ever know. And Starfire tells her to come. If they're going to save their people, she'll need her warrior sister by her side. Outside of the teleportation room, Jason tells Roy that it was quite the sacrifice that he made, going undercover like that to get close to Commander. And Roy laughs, "All the crap I've done to myself is much worse than the Blight will ever do." Honestly, the hardest part was when they injected that transponder into my arm in sickbay. But since that was the only way to track me aboard the mothership, it's not like I had a choice. And Jason tells him, "Yeah, piece of cake. You know you don't have to shrug off everything, right? It's okay to actually feel something once in a while, Roy." And Roy says, "Are we really going to do this here, now, Jason, on a spaceship on the other side of the universe? After you've woken up with your best friend beaten to a bloody green pulp, lying in a pool of their own vomit? After you've seen the damage left in the wake of all of your choices? You kinda don't let anything else bother you again, Jason." Moments later, Starfire strolls by asking, "Are the ladies finished? And if they're done with their knitting circle, shall we set off?" Jason sees Starfire and Commander geared to the teeth with guns and bullets, and he asks, "For serious, right now?" And Commander tells him that this is their risk to take, not anyone else's. Starfire then tells Roy that she has a favor to ask of him. If she doesn't make it back, could he avenge the hell out of her? A short while later, down on the planet of Tamarin, the Blight leader tells his followers that long before the people of this world shook off their fur and tails and learned to walk, the glory and grandeur that is the Blight was already sharing out sacred decay and death across the universe. The only thing that they've ever asked from the civilizations that they've toppled was the warm bodies needed to carry their unborn to fruition. Let's take a moment and thank the dying Tamarin for their sacrifice to the perpetuation of the Blight. Once our new generation bursts from the hearts of this warrior race, we will be stronger and more fierce than ever in history. Soon we will be able to take down even the fascist armies of the Green Lanterns. Come, soldiers of the Blight, come feast upon the remains of the living dead of Tamarin. Come and... But that's when two streaks of light come crashing down onto the planet and they erupt into a fiery blaze. Some of the Blight gather around the crater laughing, stating, "Those idiots, nothing could have survived that." And Starfire stands up, smoke billowing off of her, asking Commander, "Do I look like nothing to you?" And Commander says yes, nothing but trouble. One of the soldiers calls out that they need to kill these two before their foolish resistance endangers the future of their empire. Starfire steps forward with her guns pointed, stating, "There is no future for your kind. Your galactic reign of terror ends tonight!" Soon the tanks roll in, and as they set their sights on Starfire, Jason leaps in, shooting the soldier in the back of the head, telling him, "I'm gonna have to ask you not to fire." One of the Blight then grabs a hold of Jason, stating, "I've never killed a human before. This is going to be fun." And Jason tells him, "For one of us it is." Suddenly, the Blight's body splits in half and Orange stands up with his axe, asking, "Have I offended you by killing your assailant?" And Jason says, "Yeah, but I'm already over it." Just then, the field is riddled with bullets, and Jason calls out to everyone to take cover from the snipers. But soon it stops as Roy is unloading 3 arrows into the gunner's head, telling him, "Don't worry, I got it." As the battle rages on up at the SS Starfire, DePaulo tells Kitten to open up a line to the Blight ship. After a few moments, a screen pops up with the Blight aboard the mothership, and DePaulo says that they are clearly outnumbered. He requests permission to teleport aboard and discuss their terms of surrender. The Blight tell him fine. He'll be brought aboard in 2 minutes. And Isabel yells, "Wait! They're going to kill you if they go!" DePaulo doesn't respond to her and tells Kitten to set the ship to self-destruct. 1 minute and 56 seconds. And Isabel then says, "Wait, that's why you evacuated everyone off the ship?" Kitten drags Isabel away with DePaulo sitting in the commander's chair thinking to himself, alone at last. For a Dominator, being around other sentients is a study in agony. If he's going to die this way, he prefers to do it in blessed solitude. As the countdown completes, DePaulo tells the Blight to lower their shields, one to beam aboard. Down below, there is a ground-shaking explosion in the sky, and Starfire tells DePaulo, "May Zal watch over you forever." Commander continues her assault, shouting that too many allies to the throne have died. Too much blood has been spilled this day! And suddenly, she stops. As the throne spear goes through her stomach and drips with blood, she tells Starfire that she has failed her. Jason and Roy look back going, uh-oh. And the Blight High Lord yells that they have them on the run. "Let us skin these meat sacks and rule the day!" Starfire begins to focus her energy, stating that upon the graves of her parents, "I swear, that is enough!" And she begins to lose control of her powers, ripping apart the ground in a massive explosion. And through that smoldering ash, Starfire makes her way through, grabbing the High Lord, telling him that he was mistaken when he believed that he offered people some perverted gift of death. She is here to tell him that pain and suffering is easy. That's why there is so much of it in the universe. He wants to experience something unique. Try life, hope, love. Starfire pulls the High Lord close and kisses him, and seconds later he begins to burn from the inside out. A week later, Starfire stares at the throne, thinking to herself that she has spent so many years imagining her return, taking vengeance on the people who had turned their backs to her when she needed them the most. And now that she is finally here, the only way that she can ever be truly free is to forgive the world that betrayed her. She realized the very last thing she wanted was to rule anybody. And that's when Commander steps out, stating that she will be the one sitting on the throne. It's what their parents always wanted. Starfire tells her that she should be resting. They can talk about things while she sits. And Starfire helps Commander onto the throne, and she tells her that she has a request. "Please stay. Be here by my side. We can rule together." Starfire smiles, stating that just as Tamarin needs their queen, her friends, the outlaws, they need her. She has found happiness, maybe love, among the humans. And as everyone gets ready to make their trip back to Earth, there is already someone on the deserted island waiting. A twisted voice yells, "Yoo-hoo! Anybody home? Where is it? Where is it? Come out, wherever you are!" And as the trunk opens up, the person reaches inside, stating, "Ah, there you are! And here we go." The Joker pulls out Jason's mask and he begins to laugh louder and louder and louder. On his way home, Jason begins to think to himself that even before he died, there were a few things in life that could make him afraid. First was something happening to his mother. They know how that turned out. Second was an empty bread basket. Yeah, he has food issues. Third, Superman. And he is currently knocking on the side of their ship, asking if they have a moment to talk. He says they do not need to do this the hard way. And Roy then asks, how about they pretend they don't see Superman and they keep flying? And Superman says, that won't work. Super hearing, remember? Isabel says, why don't they just talk to him? And Jason says, well, because we're outlaws. What do you think he wants? Orn tells Starfire that he can teleport her and the others down to Earth from here. A cloaking program would make it impossible for the Kryptonian to locate them. Starfire says that is an excellent suggestion. Make it so. Everyone gets into the teleporter and begins to fade away, and outside, Superman's a little perturbed. Seconds later, down on the deserted island that is the Outlaws' base, Jason holds up his gun and Starfire says that he must relax. There is no way that even one such as Superman could have fallen. Jason tells her, yeah, keep telling yourself that. I fought beside him. Trust me when I say that when Superman wants something, there's nothing that can stand in his way. Roy says that it sounds like he almost respects him, and Jason looks around stating, yeah, just like how you respect a shark if you're surfing. And on cue, Superman floats down and Isabel asks, is it really a good idea to be pointing a gun at Superman? Jason says, look, I don't tell you how to serve the peanuts. Superman tells Starfire that his name is, but Starfire stops him stating, I might not have lived on Earth as long as you, but I know who you are. There is a reason I never took the opportunity to introduce myself. Krypton was never liked by the people of Tamarin, even when it was alive. Just then an arrow bounces off of Superman's chest and he asks, really? Are we really going to do this? And within a second, he uses his heat vision to knock everyone on the ground, excluding Isabel. As the red begins to fade, Superman says that he isn't here to hurt anyone. And Starfire lunges in stating, that's not going to be the problem that you think it is. Superman holds out his hand telling her, you misunderstand. I said I didn't want to hurt anyone, not that I wouldn't. And with a quick punch, Starfire is knocked down to the ground. Just then another arrow hits Superman and he asks, this again? Can't you just fire them all at once so that we can move on? But before he could go on, a substance jets out covering Superman's face. And Jason asks, what's that one do? Roy explains that the arrow contains a chemical that when exposed to air, the gas turns into silicon. So his lungs should be filling up with gunk as they speak. Superman pulls what he can from his face, stating, that was quite impressive, but it won't work on someone who can raise their body temperature to the point where silicone burns. Everyone gets ready to brawl once again, but that's when a voice says, enough is enough! I'm a little disappointed. Superman, you're supposed to be the most powerful person on the planet and you can't figure out how to text? And the three of you just overthrew an empire and freed a planet, and you can't take 5 minutes to have a conversation with Superman? Everyone stops, and Jason says, yeah, that's fair. Superman goes on, telling them, okay, well, I was recently approached by an intergalactic warlord named Hellspawn who's looking to enlist extraterrestrials into his cause. As another alien on Earth, I was wondering if Starfire had been approached. Roy tells him, no way, that never happened. Starfire stops him. Well, actually, the encounter was so brief and so bizarre, I hadn't given it much thought since. I was blissfully alone for an afternoon when a blue-flamed alien appeared. He was speaking on behalf of this Hellspawn. Superman says that he heard through the grapevine that the off-worlders were given the same hard sell, and that they also turned down his people. If it's not too much trouble, he would like to ask Starfire to contact him if she is to hear from these people again. Roy tells him to just suck it up and ask, and Starfire says, it is very clear. Superman needs our help. Superman tells them, look, the truth of the matter is that it is taking every bit of self-control to not drag the three of you back to the States and see you charged and convicted for the multitude of crimes that you have racked up. I can only imagine the things that you've done since you've all banded together, but I understand that they're your methods, not mine. Batman vouched for you, Jason. Superman then scans the table that Jason is sitting on and says, if you're going to be holding a trillion Starblader, you might want to take the safety off first. Roy then asks, when you go back to the Justice League, can you tell Green Arrow something like, hey? Superman tells him, I don't normally hang out with, you know what, sure, hey, got it. Later, back in Gotham, Isabel opens up the door to her apartment stating that it isn't much, but it's home. It's close to the airport and it's functional. Jason tells her that he's the last person that she has to explain herself to. And as Jason gets closer, Isabel asks if he's going to kiss her, because the last time he wasn't very good. Jason says that that's when he was lying about everything. Allow him to show her the difference. Some time passes and Jason turns off the shower, getting ready to get dressed when he calls out to Isabel asking if she could give him something to wear since she decided to tear his clothes off. A moment passes and there's no response, so Jason grabs the shower curtain pole and rips it off the wall. He slowly creeps out and looks down to see an overdosed Isabel on the ground. Dead on the ground. He's known addicts. He would have known if she was one. Someone did this on purpose. Someone was trying to send him a message. that Isabel is dead because of him? As Jason rushes to her side, the man on the TV says that this is Jack Napier with the weather. Whether I'm right or wrong, tomorrow's going to be a scorcher, folks. It's going to be dark all night, followed by a scattered sunshine in the morning. Come on, kid, this is some of my best material. Relax, your lady friend is going to be fine. I've already called the EMTs. Oh, in Gotham's finest. Jason looks back at the TV asking, is that you? Why? And Jack responds, why? Why not ask? Why not? Just then the police break in shouting, freeze! And Joker rips off the face mask, asking, freeze? During a heat wave? Whoa! These people serve, protect, and entertain! Jason tells the Joker that if Isabel dies, he swears to God on what's left of that pasty face that he will kill him himself. It only took seconds for the Gotham PD to storm the room as Jason held Isabel, and Jason tells them that they need to get this girl to the hospital. He's going after the man responsible for it, and if they don't stand down in the next 3 seconds, he's gonna take them all down. Harvey Bullock asks, and how are you going to do that? You're nothing but a towel. After those 3 seconds are up, Jason grabs the shower curtain pole and goes to town. He went easy on them. Mostly, they were just doing their job. And as all of the officers begin to fall, Bullock grabs his gun, but before he can even point it, Jason is already at his throat with the shower pole. After that, Bullock called in the ambulance to take Isabel away. That's when things took a turn for the worse. Jason had taken Bullock's keys, but there was already somebody waiting for him in the back seat. And what followed was a cloud of gas. Time passes, and suddenly Jason wakes up to the sound of someone laughing. He blinks his eyes and quickly realizes that he can't move a finger. But why? What did the Joker do to him? As the laughter stops, the Joker tells him, don't worry. You're not having one of those out-of-body experiences, though. If anyone would know about this, it would be me. I've injected you with a toxin that completely paralyzes your body, so no funny business. Joker then leans down, telling him, how about I tell you a joke? There's something that I've been working on for a while. Jason kicks out his leg, telling the Joker, no, let's not. There's one thing that the Joker didn't realize after he had come back to life, that he was trained by Dukra and the All-Cast. Things like paralytic toxins mean next to nothing. Jason gets up, kicking the Joker back once more, pulling his cuffed hands around the front and reaching for a crowbar. He charges and slamming the Joker into the wall with the crowbar, pressed against his neck, telling him, we're gonna end this right here, right now. And that's when the crowbar emits electricity, shocking Jason, causing him to fall back. The Joker sits there and begins clapping, telling him, you and me, kid! Same as it was! You and me! More time passes and Jason hears the faint voice of the Joker telling him, wakey, wakey! You'll miss the first reel and then you'll be lost. Jason quickly jolts up, yelling for the Joker to show himself, and why did he call him son? Joker asks, do you really want to know? The answer's right in front of your eyes. Jason looks down and says that he sees a spent bullet, and as he picks it up, he says that this has no significance at all. Joker asks, are you sure? It couldn't be the bullet that I pulled out of dear old Pops, could it? Jason jumps to his feet and begins to run, shouting that he will find him, and that's when he suddenly stops. It's a woman and a child, and Joker says, it's time for some traumatic childhood syndrome, loss of a parent. You were too young back then, too helpless to help. Jason kicks the mannequin, knocking off the mannequin's head that would be his mother, and Joker asks, do you have mommy issues? Usually it's the other parent. Jason begins running again, and that's when he trips over a small medical box. He then asks, do you remember that one, the night that you stole it from the good old doctor? Jason sits back up, asking, what are you trying to say? That you were there from the beginning, in the shadows, every step of the way? At first there's silence, and then the Joker tells him, something like that. Jason snaps, no, I'm not buying it. My life might be a steaming pile, but it's my life, not some punchline to a stale act. The Joker begins to laugh. Actually, you kind of are! And why would we lie to each other? We're practically family! The Joker pulls a lever and the floor beneath Jason falls and he begins to tumble to the floor below. But what Jason doesn't see right away is that there's someone else in the pit with him. Everyone comes from humble beginnings. Jason Todd is no different. The day he was born, his mother was screaming for him to get out while his father, well, he was busy trying to hit on the receptionist at the front desk. Then there was the time he died, but we'll get back to that later. First, we're going to go back to how Jason Todd's parents met. His mother, Catherine, used to go off campus to get lunch each day, and one of those days, she met a loser. She met Willis Todd. The two locked eyes, and they couldn't keep their hands off of each other. Now, Willis had a hard life growing up, so in his defense, he didn't really have a chance. He would brag about how he was drinking and got into a car accident and escaped before the cops could get him. That was the big one for him. After some time, baby Jason was born, and this is when things got better, right? No. But he couldn't really complain. Aside from being a child and not knowing any better, he did at least have a lot of basics covered. At a young age, it fell to Jason to take care of the house since Willis was always working. Jason would take care of his mother while she went through depression, did Lord knows how many drugs, and she'd often check out for days at a time. As Jason got older, Willis taught him the tricks of the trade, how to make money on the corner while hiding in plain sight. Willis might have been a little proud, but who's to say? Then one night, Willis was shot in the back. Good thing he was spineless, right? Lo and behold, things got worse when he was arrested. It fell onto Jason to protect the home. Mostly it was keeping a lot of his mother's dealers away and managing to protect his mother from them. However, there was one person that she couldn't be protected from, herself. By the time Jason had found her, she was already gone. And after that, Jason took to the streets taking what he could. He never hurt anyone physically, but the same couldn't be said for him. One of the nights when he woke up, he was in the hospital under the care of Dr. Leslie Tompkins. Nice lady, wouldn't shut up about second chances. So how did Jason repay her? Well, he stole prescription drugs from her. He'd almost gotten away with it, but that's when, well, he appeared. The man dressed as a bat. Batman was ready to take in Jason, but Dr. Tompkins begged him to give him a chance. Still to this day, Jason has no clue what Dr. Tompkins saw in him. After being convinced to give him a second chance, Batman did take in the young lad. And after some time, they had built up a trust, and Batman began to train him to become the second kid to wear the Robin costume. It was a pretty sweet gig, take down the bad guys and do some good in the world. But then things began to spiral. Jason would hit the bad guys over and over, harder and harder. Batman saw this and decided that he needed to be benched for a bit, let him cool off, and that was the mistake. One night, Batman went on patrol and Jason manned the Bat computer when he saw an image of someone, his mother. She was alive. Without saying a word, Jason set off to find Catherine in the Middle East of all places. Using every trick that he had learned as Robin, it didn't take long to track her down, and everything was fine until it wasn't. The Joker was there waiting for him. It was the first time that he died. Now, there's no telling what happened between the death and, well, revival. All Jason knew is that there was something called the Lazarus Pit. But now on to the man that created the Red Hood, the Joker. See, there's a little known fact about Jason's upbringing, and that fact is that someone had a little hand in how things played out. It all started the night that Jason's father got shot. It was a back alley, no-name hospital, of course. But watching from afar, the Joker decided something. He was gonna make that kid a star. So after a little bit of planting and preparation, Willis was arrested for some bogus crime, but Lord knows he needed to be put away anyway. That's when the Joker just needed to play off Catherine's weakness. But that's the funny thing about drugs. Some drugs act like other drugs. Instead of getting high, some effects can mimic that of dying. So as far as anyone was concerned, Catherine Willis died from an overdose. That's when things started to get really interesting. The Joker had created a new Robin. Now the punchline to this is, a broken-spirited boy turns to a life of crime and then becomes a hometown favorite. Touching story, right? Just throw in a heartfelt moment where the hero finds his mother, and kaboom! What happened next was crazy. Jason Todd came back to life. The kicker is that Jason decided to take on the Joker's maiden name, the Red Hood, completely with bringing a .44 caliber pain to everyone, including Batman. Guess now it's time to sit back and enjoy the show. Now that concludes what the Joker was hinting at in our previous story. It is an origin story of Red Hood as it was told in a New 52. It's been slightly retconned since then, and a lot of the fans aren't fans of what the Joker did to the Red Hood. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the Joker to have created the Red Hood. Personally, I don't think it matters too much, but a lot of people are against it. Now this story was told during the New 52 by the Joker when he was fighting against the Red Hood. It was a filler issue. And we're going to get back to the Red Hood versus the Joker storyline next week. But I thought you guys might be interested to know what Arsenal and Starfire were doing during this period. So since it's also a short issue, we're going to cover that right now. Now, with the disappearance of Jason, Arsenal and Starfire set out to Gotham City for answers as to where Jason could have gone. But as they arrive, they find themselves in the middle of a battle with a swarm of homeless men infected by the Joker toxin, as well as fighting alongside the Teen Titans of the New 52. Starfire asks why they do not simply incinerate these creatures, and Kid Flash says because he just witnessed them transform only a few moments ago. What if the Joker hasn't set in yet? Maybe there's a way to save them. Arsenal punches one of the men, stating that he's with Kid Flash on this. Until they know for sure, they must do everything that they can to try and save them. As for starters, Speedy here is going to corral all these people so that they can contain them safely. Kid Flash asks where Wonder Girl is, and Arsenal asks, Wonder Girl what? Wait, are you seriously checking in with this girl before listening? Wonder Girl tells him to relax, that she speaks on behalf of the Titans. While they appreciate the last-minute backup, they have their own way of doing things. They hit things. Arsenal then asks, what do you guys do when that doesn't work? And Wonder Girl pushes everyone into a building, stating, we hit them harder. As she closes the doors, Kid Flash runs back out, boarding up the door with planks and nails, stating, there, that should keep them out. Arsenal asks if she knows how strong drugged up people can get. And just then the infected begin to beat on the door, with Arsenal stating, look, we don't have to like each other, but if we want to get Red Hood and Red Robin back, then we gotta work together. Wonder Girl says, all right, what's the plan? And Arsenal smiles, stating, I don't have one! And Starfire slaps her head, quietly muttering, Mother of Zol. Just then, a ping can be heard, and Arsenal tells them that his alarm just went off on his analysis arrow. Now he has a plan. During the fight, he drew some blood and sent the information over to the super secret floating headquarters nearby. The lab on board broke down the toxin and found the elements used to create it. Working backwards, they've created a counter-synthetic to nullify those found in the toxin, and they can save all the people that are infected. The computer also identified a warehouse in the docks where they can find all the synthetics. So everyone else will go get the stuff while me and Bunker will stay here and hold back the infected. Bunker laughs, stating, see? It's all gonna work out. Wait, did he say Bunker? Arsenal yells, we don't have time, go! The faster we are, the more people we can save. As Starfire and Wonder Girl and the others leave, the door breaks down and the infected begin to pour in. A short while later, over on the docks, Wonder Girl opens up a storage unit asking if this is what they're looking for. And one of the boxes says, Cure, do not touch. Wait, what's that ticking sound? Kid Flash quickly grabs everyone, running back as an explosion goes off, and Wonder Girl yells, damn it, we were so close. Those crates were our only shot at a cure. And as they get back up, Kid Flash motions to the stack of boxes asking, were those the ones that we wanted? Thank you, I may have saved them. Back with Arsenal, him and Bunker are fighting against the infected with non-lethal methods until Arsenal finally runs out of arrows. Arsenal turns to Bunker, telling him, can't you do something else with your powers, like not just make giant fists? And Bunker yells, of course I can! I just hit people! Oh wait, I get it now. Soon, Bunker steps back, creating psionic bricks, and begins to contain the infected within them. Arsenal pats him on the shoulder, telling him, haha, knew you could do it. Good job. And a few moments pass with the others returning with the crates, and Arsenal telling everyone that they have to be fast. The crazy clown has all these syringes pre-dosed, most likely to hold the city hostage at some point. Kid Flash? Kid Flash steps back, telling him, I'm not so sure. Needles really aren't my thing. Wonder Girl grabs him, asking, are you kidding right now? You will so not pass out. Not until everyone is cured. Then you can pass out. Kid Flash sighs as he begins to get to work injecting the infected. And Arsenal tells Wonder Girl that he likes her style. She folds her arms, telling him that he can't imagine how little that means to her, but thank you. Shortly after, the people inside the containment area begin to revert back, and Arsenal thinks to himself that everything turned out okay. Maybe he could try to help these kids out sometime. Make sure they don't turn out like him down the road. A short while later, Jason realizes that it was Timothy Drake, Red Robin, and as they lay in their cell, there is a knocking sound and the Joker asks, hello? Everyone decent? I certainly hope not. Without an answer, the Joker kneels down, telling them, how can they still be unconscious? They just don't build bat brats like they used to. Joker bursts out laughing, yelling, I know what to do. It's going to be awe-inspiring. Why is it that I'm at my best when there's only an audience of one? Joker rushes out of the room, locking it down before heading to the control panel and asking, which one is the spotlight? He pushes a button and water dumps down on Jason and Tim, and the two quickly get up coughing from the intake of water. Jason says, sorry for dragging you into this, Tim. The pasty-faced freak made this personal, but there's no way that he's leaving this place alive. And Tim tells him, You know, this may come as a shock, but this isn't about you. Not entirely, at least. If we act rash, we both lose. The screen turns on and Joker yells, "Front and center, boys! You better turn around for your super secret surprise!" As the two turn back, they see two men tied to a pipe. One with a sign that says number 1 dad, and another one that says deadbeat dad. Joker bursts out laughing again, shouting, "I love family reunions! Now, normally I wouldn't spell this part out, but since you're so slow, we're gonna play a game. We have Red Hood's dad and Red Robin's dad, and there's going to be some red spilling out of one of them. I'll let you decide which is going to live and which is going to die." Tim asks if he really thinks that this is going to work. What are they supposed to do, fight each other to the death for his entertainment? You're crazier than... But before Tim could finish, he hears a click of a gun, and the cold steel is pressed against his head. Tim sighs, asking, "Is there any wonder why I'm your only friend, Jason?" Tim spins around, kicking the gun out of Jason's hand, telling him, "We have to work together." And Jason asks, "Why would I risk my father's life?" The two go back and forth, hitting each other, and Joker begins clapping, telling them, "Ha, this is it! Cain and Abel, Kirk versus the Gorn. It's the I versus the E, except the C." Tim then hits Jason, yelling, "Your father died in prison." And Jason hits back, telling him, "The Joker brought my mother back from the dead. What's to say that this isn't it too?" As Tim falls, Jason pins him down with the gun, telling him, "I'm sorry. I can't take any chances, Tim." Suddenly, there's a flash of light out of Tim's suit, and Tim leans up, knocking Jason back, and the two go right back at it again. As Tim hits, he realizes that Jason is too stubborn to get knocked out, which means he'll have to play dirty to win this. He uses his wings, swinging them like a blade, cutting into Jason's mask. He then tells him, "I could kill you right here, and you'd have no idea, but that's not something that we do." And Joker yells, "Come on! Find a way to do that or both men are going to die!" As Tim goes in for another swing, he swings around, slashing at the glass divider that holds their fathers. Jason then opens fire, unloading his magazine into the Joker. As Jason holsters his gun, he asks, "How did you know that those weren't our fathers?" And Tim says, "Because the man that the Joker claimed was his had a discoloration on his wrist, not matching his actual father." So the two laugh, and the Joker begins to cough when suddenly gas shoots out of the bullet wounds in his body. Jason shouts, "The Joker knew that I would shoot him! We have to! However, as the gas fills their lungs and they collapse, a shadow stands over them. It all started low at first, but the voice in his head can get louder. The Joker yells, Look! Wake up and see this amazing setting that we have here! Step into the light!" Batman begins to open up his eyes as he sees Damian, Nightwing, Batgirl, Jason, and Tim all bound with bags over their heads. The Joker laughs. "Ta-da! Dinner is served!" Batman tries to force his way out of his bindings, but the Joker tells him, "Don't worry, they're all just bound and gagged. They've kept me entertained, though, talking to them for hours." Batman struggles, telling him, "I'm going to destroy you for this." And the Joker laughs. "Not so fast! I wouldn't want you to get up just yet! After all, don't you smell something, Bats?" After a few moments, Batman tells him, "I can smell gasoline." And Joker tells him, "That's right! There are flints underneath the throne. The moment you try to get up, the sparks will fly. Now, you could stand up, leave the table at any point during the meal. In doing so, you'll burn away all the shame that you brought on to these kids. But first, let's have a look at what's for dinner. Oh, Jeeves, Mr. Pennyworth." Batman begins to ask, "What did you do?" And an infected Alfred crawls out of a hole, and the Joker says, "He's right here, itching to help." Batman lets out a sigh of relief, and Alfred walks over with a rope and pulls it down. All of the bags that are covering everyone's heads are pulled off, and each of them has bloody bandages covering their faces, only exposing their eyes. Batman looks at Horror, asking, "What did you do?" And the Joker tells him, "I've just dressed them up for the part, or rather, I've undressed them. Mr. Pennyworth, would you please serve us?" So Alfred begins to take off the domes on each of the plates, and inside of them are the faces of each of the Bat family members staring right back at them. The Joker tells him, "Oh, I hope you like it. I made it with lots of love." Batman struggles, asking, "How could you?" And the Joker tells him, Oh, it was quite simple. Just a little slice here, pull a bit there, chill and serve. 30-minute recipe, Bats. Joker walks over, leaning on the table, asking, "Why is it that you have never killed me?" Batman tells him, "Because you'd win." And the Joker bursts out laughing. I love that one, because I'd win. But what if Batman killed the Joker and no one knew? It could certainly happen. But would Batman be able to bear that cross? Joker then takes out a small booklet stating, "I wrote this love letter. It's a backwards map. It's a hit list, and I'd write it over and over again. It's the kids here who are making Batman afraid of what he's taken from them in the moment of their weakness. But he doesn't have to be afraid anymore, because the Joker's here now. I've carried out Bat's orders. The nightmare can finally end. Now who are we going to let do the honors?" Joker takes on a match, striking it, telling him, "Go on, stand up! Or I'll toss the match, Bats." After a few seconds, Batman kicks back in his chair, igniting the gas, running from the tables, telling him, "If you knew me so well, then you would have realized that no one knows the caves better than me." Batman frees himself, tossing a small explosive up to the ceiling, and as it explodes, the water comes pouring in, putting out the fires. Joker looks at his work destroyed, not smiling. "That's not funny." Batman quickly begins to untie everyone, asking if they're all right, and Nightwing tells him, "Just hurry up and go after the Joker. We're gonna be fine." Batman says that he can't. He can't leave them alone again. And Nightwing says, "It will be fine. Go, Bruce." So Batman turns to follow the Joker deeper into the caves, but as he leaves, the cat Joker has had sitting on the table begins to beep. It meows and then explodes with gas, and everyone begins to breathe it in. And as Nightwing recovers, he asks, "Everyone okay?" But up ahead, Batman turns a corner and Joker leaps out of the shadows with an axe. Batman catches it as Joker yells, "You just had to ruin it, didn't you?" Batman grabs the axe, ripping it out of the Joker's hands, telling him, "Enough! No more dances, no more quarreling, no more of anything, Joker." Back at the entrance, the gas is spreading, infecting all of the kids, and they all quickly begin to beat into each other, laughing as they can't control themselves. Meanwhile, back with Batman, he cracks Joker in the back of the head with a crowbar, and the Joker yells, "Ow! Are you really going to let them die back there?" Batman walks forward, telling him, "No, I have faith in them. I've made them stronger." Joker's smile fades and he begins to yell, "Liar! I know that they don't make you anything! Maybe this will help reveal your true self!" He pushes a button and acid sprays out of the flower onto Batman's mask, and he begins to run away again, laughing. But after only a few moments, the Joker comes to a waterfall. As he jumps off of it, Batman grabs him, telling him, "No, not that way. But how about it? Maybe tonight I will go farther than I've ever gone before. How about I stop this game right here, right now, once and for all, Joker?" Joker begins to laugh. "Do it! I dare you! You'd never!" Batman leans in, telling him, "I'll do you one better. I broke the spell. I finally learned the truth. All of it. Your name, your history, who you really are. If I had to choose what family, I choose them. Now listen close, Joker. Your real name is..." Joker begins to slam his palm into the Batman's mouth with an electric buzzer, pushing himself off, falling into the depths below. A short time later, Batman brings everyone back home, treating them for the toxins that they ingested, and everyone goes back to as it should. But as Batman walks into the cave, the screen on the computer shows an image of the Joker, still with the identity unknown text beneath it. The computer then reports that it found the isotope in the Joker toxin, element 105, dubnium. Batman stares for a moment and asks, "Does it have any other names?" And the computer responded with honium. Batman then asks for the original element symbol, and the screen changes to HA. As the days pass and everyone is recovering from the Joker toxin, Jason notices Damian sitting all by himself outside. He walks outside stating that he should get ready to leave, and Damian asks, "Who cares?" Jason laughs off the comment, telling him that he just wanted to say, "Good job back there." Damian scoffs, telling him that it means a lot coming from someone of such mental health like him. Jason takes a seat at the bench and tells Damian that they've all been through what he's going through. He reaches out to touch Damian, but he shifts away, asking, "Weren't you leaving?" A few moments later, a minivan comes screeching to the entrance outside of the house, and Arsenal gets out stating, "And I thought Oliver Queen had megabucks. Dude, Can't imagine what the rent is like with all these bat safe houses. As Jason gets ready to respond, Starfire flies up grabbing on, and Jason says, yeah, it's nice to see you too. Starfire pulls Jason into the air asking, where have you been? We feared the worst. And Jason tells her that he had some family things that he needed to take care of. Can you, put me down? As she does, Jason motions to the door asking if she would like to come inside. There's a few things that he needs to get. She turns away stating that it might be best if she waited outside. Jason walks back inside asking, are you serious? Are you not even gonna say hello to her? Nightwing looks at him. The Joker opened up some very old wounds. Should be more understandable why I'm not close with anyone, right? Jason turns to leave, telling him, maybe. Or maybe that girl out there is more amazing than you give her credit for. Nightwing stops him. Don't judge me. Just promise to watch over her, Jason. Jason walks out telling him, oh, I will. Every day of my life. Back outside, Jason sees Arsenal and Damian fighting, and he asks, really? And both of them point at each other shouting, he started it! Once inside, Jason says his goodbyes, and Batman sits in the cave stating that he thought that there weren't going to be any goodbyes. Jason says that he bumped into the big guy the other day. Said Batman vouched for him. Batman doesn't even turn to look at Jason, but he tells him, I'll never approve of your methods, but I cannot argue with your results, Jason. I learned a long time ago that I can't control everyone. Jason takes off his helmet and begins to walk back upstairs, but then he stops for a moment. He turns back and he says, I have to know, the things the Joker said, were they true? Did he actually create me? Batman tells him, no, Joker didn't make you. Batman didn't either. You made yourself. As Jason heads back upstairs, he puts his helmet back on, but suddenly, it latches itself closed. A hologram of the Joker appears and he shouts, you played a joke on me, Jason! Only I'm not laughing. You were supposed to be one of my greatest masterpieces from start to finish. But you were too stubborn to stay dead. So here's what we're going to do. You're so determined to be your own man? Fine, let's start you with a clean slate. Just then, the Joker toxin is released into the Red Hood mask, and as much as Jason tries, he can't take it off his head. Batman comes running up the stairs, catching Jason as the gas is fading, and the mask loosens. He pulls it off while everyone comes running in, and Damian asks what just happened, but Batman can't respond. All he can do is cry as he holds Jason with his face burned. Later, as Jason lays on a slab of stone, he can hear something nagging in the back of his mind. A low ha-ha. But it gets louder, and it gets louder. Lightning strikes, and the Joker is looming over Jason, shouting that he must really be obsessed with being alive. Too bad you're dead! Wiped that pretty pink brain matter off the crowbar onto my finely pressed purple suit. Joker brings up a massive fist down, destroying the altar that Jason was lying on, barely missing him, and that's when Jason notices something in the rubble. He pulls out a bundle of dynamite and he leaps into the air, shoving it into the Joker's mouth, telling him that he's not going through that again. Never! The explosion launches Jason back to the ground, nearly knocking him unconscious. But as he stands, he tells Dukra, thanks for the help. But she says that there's nothing that she can do to undo the damage that he's done to this place. He looks around at the mound of dead friends, including those of the Bat family, and Dukra goes on telling him that after he left the All-Cast, he continued to let his life be defined by the actions of one man. He became a killer, lashing out to people who may or may not have deserved it, and eventually he hurt all of those that he cared for. In a way, how is he different from the Joker? Jason pulls out the All Blades, telling her whether she's a distant memory or not, she will never compare him to that monster. He is nothing like the Joker. Dukra points at a tree, and on it, hanging by their necks, are Arsenal and Starfire. Jason falls to his knees, stating this isn't possible. And Dukra tells him that he cannot live in the past and the present at the same time. Not without one reaching out to destroy the other. He has to let one of them go. The closest to him will suffer the most. How long did he think that he could continue to live and thrive in an inferno of rage that burns within his heart? They love him, with their own hearts wide open, yet all he gives in return is the hollow actions of a man going through the motions. Soon the bodies of those around Jason begin to reach out, grabbing onto him, pulling him under, until finally, someone grabs his hand. Batman pulls as hard as he can, telling Jason that it's time. It's time to come back home, for good. And as things change, Jason takes off the helmet, stating that there is no place for him. He tried to be a good soldier, even a part of Batman Inc., and he failed him again. Batman tells him that there's just too much talk about the blame between the two of them. There always has been. They have to let things go. They both have done things that they regret, but the one thing that he will never apologize for is taking a chance on Jason. In the real world, Batman is sitting by Jason's side as Jason opens up his eyes. He begins to tell him, I'm sorry, but Batman tells him, shh, Shh. And he embraces Jason. Somewhere over the Himalayas, a Wayne Enterprises jet flies over the snowy mountains when it's suddenly attacked by a group of assassins. The leader of the group says that if they would be willing to fly such an expensive plane in this area, they must be willing to pay a lot for their lives. Right? Jason sighs as he closes his book, telling the man that they really don't know what they just walked into. He's really not in the mood for this. The man points his gun at Jason's head and laughs, telling him, "Too bad you don't have your butler here to hide behind." Jason tells him that his butler would kick his ass all the way back to Gotham City, which would be much more pleasant than what he has in mind. 2 hours later, Roy and Starfire find Jason's downed plane, and Roy says that it means that they're getting close at least, right? Starfire flies down, telling him that there's no trace of Jason, and Roy says, knowing Jaybird, he's covering his tracks anyway. Maybe the townsfolk will have some clues. So, as a group of natives look on, Roy yells out, "Greetings! We're big American superheroes and we need to find someone. But we must also reach the Acres of All, the home of the All-Cast. Does anyone know where that is?" The people all begin to look at each other and a man waves his hand stating, "Sorry, no English." Several hours go by and Roy pushes through the snow, telling himself that he won't freeze. He's just got to keep moving. Starfire flies over, asking if it helps at all with her stating over and over like that. And Roy shivers, telling her, "No, not at all. We just have to keep moving. Go deeper." But as he finishes his sentence, he collapses. Starfire catches him, telling him that he's not dressed properly for this climate, and Roy scoffs. Says, we have to keep going. If we don't, there's no telling if we'll see Jason again. Not after that thing with the Batman and the Joker. These past few months, the three of us together, it's been good, right? Jason wouldn't just disappear and not want us to find him, right? As Roy and Starfire rest for the night, off in the distance, a voice tells Essence that they are closer than she thought. Essence asks, "Mother? Dukra? How? You're dead." And Dukra's spirit appears, asking how many centuries did she spend leading the All-Cast. These mountains are riddled with her magic. Until it dissipates, she is a part of them. The Archer boy doesn't believe that he is capable of doing anything right, but even still he has the heart, and the will, and a deep love for his friend. We cannot interfere. Essence shouts that she must. She will shatter him through his dreams. And as Essence slips into Roy's nostrils, Roy wakes up with his mind surrounded by people of the past, all telling him that he is no good, that he should just give up, just accept it. Versions of himself and Green Arrow begin to shoot him with arrows, telling him that he is pathetic, a drunk. Jason only keeps him around to see what rock bottom even looks like. But soon, Roy begins to fight back, shouting that he is doing his best to commune with his own darkness and accept it. I may have fallen low, and I might not live up to what people think of me, but Jason needs me, and nothing will keep me from finding him. Just then, Essence is expelled from Roy's body, and he begins to wake up coughing, asking, why does it feel like he just smoked a dozen cigars? Roy then wakes up Starfire, telling her that he knows where they have to go. Fly him there now. Later, as the two are staring at a mountainside, Starfire asks if he's sure, and Roy tells her, yeah, just fly us through. Starfire picks Roy up, sighing, stating, you just woke her up to crack into a mountain. And as the two get closer, they phase through the side of the mountain and find themselves in the Acres of All. Roy looks around, stating that that was pretty easy, or maybe not? And just then a snarling creature slowly walks up, followed by several more surrounding them. Roy lets loose an arrow, hitting one creature, creating a plume of foam, and he yells out, and you said my foam arrows are stupid! But while they fight the creatures back, there was a loud roar from the alpha creature, and then suddenly, it stops. The beast falls to the ground, and Jason pulls his sword out, with Roy yelling that was pretty sweet, Jaybird. You're gonna have to teach me how to go all Beastmaster sometime. Jason wipes the blood from his sword, stating that he and his friend should leave. This place is dangerous. And as he begins to walk away, Starfire flies in front of him in a fit of anger, stating that he does not get to cast them away after they chased him halfway around the world. Roy almost died last night, all for the Himalayas. Jason looks at Starfire and says that she must have him confused with someone else. He has no idea who they are. Roy grabs Jason, stating, this is a joke, right? What's my name? And Jason smiles, stating, how would I know the name of someone I've never met? Roy begins to shout, frustrated. This isn't even a little funny. Your name is Jason Todd. We're friends. And Jason walks off telling him, the funny little man said something like that. Starfire asks who did this to him, and a voice tells her that Jason did this to himself, though he may have had a teensy bit of help. Starfire flies up to Saru, asking what did he do, and Saru asks if they remember that he can pluck memories out of people. Well, that's why their pal came here in the first place. Jason came to him, and he said that he didn't want to remember, and that he wanted to start all over. Of course, it isn't something that they were supposed to do, but Jason wanted to be stripped of everything that the darkness inside him touched, which happened to be everything. Saru turns to Jason asking how is he feeling about everything, and Jason tells him that he's feeling pretty great actually. Like, it's hard to describe, it feels like a huge weight has been lifted off of him, and he's finally able to breathe easy. Saru looks at the others and states, there you go. He asked for me to do this. Roy shouts, no! Jason would never want to rid himself of the memories of the Joker. He doesn't want a blank slate. And Saru tells him that he asked to remove everything connected to the darkness. He really doesn't understand how memories work, do you? There's a network of collected images bound by deep and powerful emotions. Everything connected to the darkness means everything, period. Roy says that he's up to something, and Saru asks, what would I possibly gain from this? Maybe you should feel what he went through for yourselves. Then you can judge whether or not he'd consider doing this. Soon everything changes, and around Starfire and Roy, they begin to see the snapshots of Jason's life. The night that he found his mother, the day that he was killed, the day that he was brought back to life, all of the torment from the Joker even after coming back to life. And Roy yells out, just stop! Jason went through some horrible stuff, we all have, but that's why we work well together. Together we are stronger than some crappy memories, and his connection to me and Starfire can go beyond anything involving the Joker. Saru reaches out asking, why don't I look through some of your memories then, when it all started? The memories change to the night that Roy met Jason when he was still Robin. Roy's getting beat up by a group of thugs when Jason saves him. He offers him his bow and says that he looked like he could use a friend. Roy then told him that he didn't need friends, but Jason just laughs, telling him, we all need friends. If you ever change your mind, you know where you can find me. Saru then explains that the night that they met, it was the night that Jason learned that his mother was alive. He left the next day to that moment when the Joker killed him, and afterwards, Duker spent a long time to quiet that burning rage in his heart. He was convinced that the only way to get revenge on the Joker was to reject everything that Batman had taught him. He would need to become a killer, and he found the perfect people to teach him the art of death. So he fell in line with the League of Assassins, the one place that he could let his rage out. Roy steps back, stating that he seemed so hurt, so betrayed. And Saru goes on stating that Jason spent his life burying his past, trying not to let it infect his soul. But we all have secrets, don't we? The big bad things that will haunt you forever. Starfire says that they can't let the past haunt them if they don't let it. And Saru laughs, telling her, oh, you're one to talk, the little games you play, the little lies. Out of this merry little gang, you're the worst offender. Starfire gets ready to attack and shouts, asking, what did you just say? And Saru asks, isn't it time? You've spent so long keeping up your little ruse. Roy then asks, what is he talking about? And Saru goes on stating, I can see how her mind works. If anything, the bonds of memory and emotion are even stronger for her than many humans. But she still pretends. She tries hard to make those who care about her think that she can't connect to them. But she is only trying to protect herself, seeing as her mind works differently than any human. It's beautiful, really. She feels so strongly, so deeply that one terrible memory can destroy her. So she buries it away in the back of her mind, effectively making it not exist anymore. But it's a choice, selective amnesia, only forgetting what you want forgotten. However, you can feel it all lingering, can't you? Those emotions were far too powerful not to leave a trace. If you want Jason to live with his darkest memories, perhaps you should try it for yourself. Starfire cries out as her memories of Nightwing are displayed. She screams for him to get out of her head, but before she could really let loose, Jason yells that they all need to stop this. He's sick of seeing everyone fight about him like he's not even standing here. All he can say is that the darkness inside of him is gone. He can have a whole new destiny. He doesn't want those memories back. Let him start over, please. Roy reaches behind his back, stating that he's sorry to do this, and he stabs Jason with a trank arrow. Roy then grabs another arrow and points it at Saru, telling him that he better fix this thing now. As Roy lets the arrow go, Saru destroys the arrow, telling him that that's cute, but it's not going to work. And after a few moments, he yawns, telling them, "You know what? I'm done being yelled at. Time for you to go. There's no place for the repressed and indignant in the acres of all." As Saru snaps his fingers, Roy tries to call out for him to wait, but before he could even move, him and Starfire are teleported outside of the acres of all, with the icy winds of the Himalayas blowing. Starfire asks, what do they do next? Roy yells that the plan was to get Jason back, but now that they have, he doesn't have his memories, and on top of that, you've been lying to me? Starfire says that it's not a lie, not exactly. She may have exaggerated how her mind works, but Roy shouts that she basically told him that she would forget him if he was gone. Did you think that that keeps me close? Keeps me from leaving you? I'm not going anywhere, and the only thing I want for this whole damn world is the three of us to be together. But I need you to trust me. That was the memory. Why was Nightwing? Starfire holds Roy, stating that she can't. She's so sorry, but she can't. And with our heroes all distraught and torn apart practically, we traveled over to Seattle, where a hacker is staring at his laptop when suddenly he is shot in the shoulder with a green arrow. The man falls to the ground and he yells that this isn't something to interfere with, and Green Arrow tells him, "That's why I figured I'd stick a few arrows in you and see what happens. Sound good?" The man then says that there's $500 million in each of their heads, including his little... Green Arrow kicks the man in the face, telling him, "Friend might be overstating it." Green Arrow then looks down at the laptop and sighs. "Damn it, Roy. Guess it's up to Green Arrow to save you. Again." The next day, back at the Outlaw's secret island, Jason climbs up into the computer room. He thinks to himself that with everything that's been said to him, he has to know the truth. Was he a costumed vigilante? Who are these people that brought him back here? And why does he have a deep feeling of comfort around them? They said they did good, but every time he asks them, their eyes dart away. There's something bigger, something hidden, something bad. Jason tells the computer to access all of the files on Red Hood. The computer responds, telling him that it's accessing the files, when suddenly the screen pops up with images of Red Hood and his confirmed kill count of 83. Meanwhile, as Roy lays in his bed awake next to Starfire, the perimeter alarm goes off and he asks Starfire if she's awake. She opens her eyes but doesn't look over, and Roy says of course not. He just needed to talk to her. He can't pretend like nothing's different since they came back here. She's been lying to him for months about her memories. She is deliberately keeping something big from him. Guess it doesn't really matter though, saying all this stuff while she's sleeping. A short while later on the beach, Green Arrow shoots another of the protective drones and he says, "Appreciate the warm welcome, really." And Roy asks, what the hell is he doing here? And Green Arrow tells him, "Look, we both don't want to see each other, but we need to talk. You and your friends are in danger." Just then, several robot arms shoot out of the ground, grabbing Green Arrow, and he shouts, "For the last time, get your weird robots off me!" Roy asks, "How did you even know we're here?" And Green Arrow tells him, "I've known ever since Superman paid you a visit. But that's not important right now. There's a huge bounty on all of you, 500 million each." Roy says that he wants to get this straight. "You found out that people are trying to hunt us, so you flew directly over to our secret island. Our secret island, Oliver! The place that we've been living secretly, in secret, for months. Doesn't that sound like a trap?" At that moment, an explosion goes off in Roy's home and he yells, "If Starfire is robots, I need Green Arrow so we can shoot things." The robots begin letting go of Green Arrow, stating, "Hello, Roy friend. We are robo-arms. Hello." Green Arrow laughs, stating, "And I thought Roy Harper had gone crazy or something. Talking robots. Ha!" As the two rush back, Roy steps into the burning building shouting for Starfire, but Cheshire stands over her, telling her, "Oh look, it's the boyfriend. How cute! Your alien love doll is out of commission permanently. Now it's time to get after the real target." Roy unloads his arrows, telling her, "You're bluffing." But Cheshire phases out and back to dodge the arrows, then kicks Roy, stating, "I don't have time for you." Roy then tells Green Arrow that he needs to find Jason, and Green Arrow asks, "Isn't he the Bat Kid? He should be fine." But Roy says that Jason isn't himself right now, and that is the problem. Now go! With Green Arrow leaving, Roy follows Cheshire through the halls, firing his arrows. But Cheshire leaps onto the wall and back at him, kicking the bow and breaking it, telling him that she bets that those fingers are strong, pulling that bowstring so much. Roy swings, and as Cheshire phases out, she looks at Roy's arm, stating, "So strong." She then disappears, and Roy yells, "Stop being sexy and fight me!" He begins to pull out a sword, and Cheshire reappears asking if he's planning on cutting her with that little thing. Roy swings again, but Cheshire jumps down, blowing powder into his face, telling him, "You just need to relax a bit." Elsewhere in the compound, Jason is reading through the files stating that they have all been lying to him. Who the hell is he? A hand reaches out touching him, telling him that they need to get out of here. A really bad poison lady is up to no good, and Jason swings his arm back, hitting Green Arrow in the mouth, shouting, "Get your hands off me!" Green Arrow wipes his mouth, telling him, "What the hell is wrong with you people?" Back with Roy, Cheshire tells him, "The toxin is painful. It will take a few hours for it to kill, but I'm not done playing with you yet. Thanks for the hat. Gonna go pay an old friend a visit." In the computer room, Jason and Green Arrow get ready to fight, but Cheshire phases and jumping off of Green Arrow, telling Jason, "You should have introduced me sooner. You have such cute friends." She laughs, telling them, "I've been fighting them all. There are 2 teams playing this bounty, and my good old pal Jason here is the ball." Cheshire looks over at Jason, and Jason says that she's gotta be kidding. And Cheshire tells him, "Nope. You've just spent months training by my side. You wanted to be such a bad killer. It was cute." Just then she phases as an arrow shoots through her, and then jumps back, kicking Green Arrow, stating, "I'm officially annoyed by the hero. Going to kill him now, yes?" But before she can swing, a red arrow knocks her sword out of her hand, and Roy pushes himself through the toxins already inside of himself, stating, "I want my damn hat back." Cheshire looks back, asking if that wasn't enough for him. How about he tries all 10 poisons in each of her nails at once? Never done that before. She leaps back, stabbing all of her nails into Roy's neck, and he falls to the ground. She laughs, telling him that the pain must be exquisite. Now, where were we? Suddenly, she lunges forward towards Jason, slamming him into the wall, telling him that he is the real target of the night. Now stop playing this ridiculous amnesia card. And Jason says, "I'm not playing anything. I have no idea who the hell you are." Across the room, Green Arrow looks through all of Roy's pouches, stating, "Yo, you got like anti-venom in here, right? There has to be. Of course, same place where mine is." As Green Arrow injects him with the antidote, Roy begins to cough, stating that if he loses both his friends tonight, he'll never forgive him. Back with Jason, Cheshire says that he can pretend all he wants, but he remembers who he is, and they've got a bigger destiny for him in mind. But as she is ripping at Jason's costume, a red blur shoots by, grabbing Cheshire and taking her to the wall. Roy gives a weak laugh. "That's my girl." Before Cheshire can realize what is going on, Starfire says that actually hurt. "You unbelievable witch!" Cheshire smiles, stating, "Obviously not enough. How about we try some of this?" She lifts a hand to Starfire's face, releasing a powder that causes Starfire to begin coughing. Cheshire then begins to phase out, making sure that she tells the cute redhead that she'll be back for him, to take one of those cute arms. Toodles. As Starfire stops coughing, she wipes her eyes and sees that Cheshire is gone. But back inside, Roy asks Jason if he's okay. Jason yells that they've been lying to him this whole time. They said that they did good together, but they were nothing but killers. And Roy says that it's not that simple. But Jason stops that apparently he used to be a killer, a good one. He saw the deaths attached to his name. How could he live with himself knowing that? How can they? Roy follows Jason out, stating that he doesn't understand. He's only scratching the surface, but Jason says, "You lied to me. No matter what you say, nothing changes." Green Arrow then asks if anyone would care to explain to him what is going on. Roy tells him no, he should probably leave, thanks to the save. As Roy walks off, Green Arrow laughs, telling him, "You're a funny guy, right?" And Starfire flies off, telling him that it's time for him to leave. Soon, Roy and Starfire return upstairs, but as Roy begins to state that they need to talk, he notices something at the back window. He pulls the piece of paper off, and it reads, "I need to find my own destiny, and I can't do it with the 2 of you. Don't come looking for me, Jay." Meanwhile, on Green Arrow's ship, underneath it, Jason secures himself a ride. The next night in Hugo Strange's office, Roy sits on the couch stating that he needs help. There's a lot of crazy things going on in his life right now, and the worst part is there's nothing he can do to stop them. It's like someone said, "Hey, these 3 buds are having too much fun, let's go ruin it." Hugo looks at his clipboard and asks, "This alien girl, am I to understand that you 2 are an item?" Roy rubs his head. Yeah, maybe we were? She had me thinking that I was disposable, but it turns out that she can remember things just fine. It feels like everything is crumbling away all at once. It feels like it did, well, back then." Hugo stands up, stating that he wears his heart on his sleeve. He always has. It's admirable, yes, but it leaves you vulnerable. But that doesn't give your friends permission to crush it anytime that they wish. Outside, Starfire scoffs, stating under her breath, "I'll crush your heart, you pompous windbag." But after a few moments of listening, she senses something else. Essence. And she flies out the window. As Starfire lunges at her, she shouts, asking if she and the Allcast have not finished ruining their lives yet. And Essence yells that the Allcast did not send her. They don't even know that she's here. Starfire grabs Essence by the throat, telling her to talk. And Essence says that that's what she's trying to do. She's come to warn them. Warn them about what's to come. Hugo Strange, he sold them out. He wants the bounty set out on them for himself. He doesn't know what he summoned, though. He doesn't realize the scale of what is about to happen. They're coming, Starfire. All of them. And I can't stop them. And I'm sorry that I didn't see it before, but we're playing a game. They're using us. We're just pawns in the bigger game. As Essence fades away, Starfire demands that she come back. But Essence tells her that it's too late. They're here. Somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, Jason thinks to himself, all right, maybe I'm done with the explosions. Probably not, though. Just then, Rictus destroys the motorcycle that Jason was riding on, telling him that it was too easy. Do they need to teach him again? Jason jumps into the air, stating, sorry, but the name isn't meaning anything. And a voice calls out that even without memories, he is running from his past. Lady Shiva kicks his leg, and Jason yells, come on! How many of you are there? Back at Hugo Strange's office, Starfire bursts through the window, stating that they need to leave. This man is lying and he is trying to twist his mind. And Roy says, this is supposed to be private. I've known Hugo for years. He's just trying to help. And Starfire tells him that no, he isn't. He sold us out to someone powerful enough to scare Essence away. And Roy looks at Hugo asking, it's not true, right? And Hugo yells, of course, I would never. But that's when the room begins to fill with smoke and a voice says, it's amusing to see mortals bicker and turn on one another. All that should matter to you is that you are now in the presence of gods, and there is no escape from the Untitled. Roy says, yep, this is definitely going up on my list of a very bad week. Back out in the forest, Jason walks away from the explosion asking, why the hell would I have ever trained with a bunch of lunatics? And suddenly Jason's body stops and begins to constrict as Blood Mage holds out his hand asking, do you at least remember your old pal December Greystone? And another voice tells him, he remembers nothing. Bronze Tiger steps out. If he had, he'd know that he couldn't win back. Now let's get Jason home where he belongs. With a flash, everyone is teleported away into a desert temple. And Jason asks, what is this place? Bronze Tiger tells him that these are the gates to the Eth Elabum, the sacred city of the League of Assassins. This is their home. And this is where you will find your new life, Jason. Back with Roy, he begins to shout, asking Hugo, do you realize what you've done? These guys are like evil, really evil. And Hugo shouts, I have no idea what's going on. This is all too much. As Hugo escapes, the leader of the Untitled, Drakkar, says that they are not here to kill them. And Starfire asks, if you don't want to kill us, what do you want? And Drakkar shouts, the same thing that you want. You just don't realize it yet. The League of Assassins has your friend in custody. He will not survive what they have planned. We are going to help you storm the gates of the League's sacred city, destroying the seals that prevent them from entering the ground. And then we will allow your friend Jason to leave, alive, and you will never hear or see the Untitled again. Starfire asks if they really think that Roy would fall for her, but Roy stops her. Okay, we really gotta think this one through, Starfire. Yeah, sure, the Untitled will stab us in the back the first chance that they get, but one person from the League nearly killed you. Think about how a team of them could do it. Starfire says no, if he wishes to walk this path, to enter the League of Assassins to save Jason, then he will be walking it alone. Roy asks, is she serious? Their friend is in danger. They have to fight together. This is how they win this. She kisses Roy, stating, then this is where we say goodbye. She flies out the window and Roy wipes his tears, stating, I will come back for you when this is done. I promise. He then turns back. All right, Beardy. I'm gonna need every piece of weaponry and machinery you have access to, and I'm gonna need it tonight. Back at the gates, Jason follows the assassins down the elevator, looking over the massive underground city, asking, what is this place? And Bronze Tiger tells him, this is the paradise that Ra's al Ghul spent centuries trying to bring to the world. This is where the League of Assassins were born. The Untitled are coming for them. They are immensely powerful, and we believe that you may be the only one that can stop them. Jason asks, how the hell is he supposed to do that? And Bronze Tiger smiles, telling him, you have been chosen to lead the League of Assassins. Are you ready to step up and achieve your destiny, Jason? Later in the evening, after Bronze Tiger told Jason that he would be leading the League of Assassins, he meets with Jason telling him that the costumed heroes fight to maintain a broken system. They refuse to call the weak and the wicked. He once saw how broken this world was, the kind of justice it truly needed. He will soon see that again as he leads the League of Assassins. Jason asks, "Why are you doing this?" And Bronze Tiger says that Talia al Ghul had a plan for him from the very beginning. She saw his potential greatness. They all do. That is why she revived him in the Lazarus pits, and Jason shakes his head. She was the one who brought me back to life? That's so strange to say out loud. Talia al Ghul revived Jason Todd. Roy once told me, no, I don't want to talk about my friends. They lied to me about my life and they tried to set me down a darker path. But then again, how is leading an army of insane killers any better than what they offered? I don't want to be a killer. That's why I left my friends in the first place. Bronze Tiger tells him that if he wants to do good, real good, then they can arrange that here. Meanwhile, over in the South Pacific, Starfire gets to work on a machine, and as she finishes the last-minute adjustments, she says that they're going to try this again. As she presses the button, the machine behind her winds up, and there's a loud crackle sound. An essence is pulled out of her smoke form and falls to the ground. Starfire asks if she's okay, and Essence tells her that she is not just some pet to be simply plucked out of thin air, you arrogant! Starfire yells, wait, just listen. Essence turns back, hitting Starfire with a blast and knocking her into trees, but Starfire returns with a blast of her own, telling her that she didn't bring her here to hurt her, but she can certainly be persuaded. Essence begins to wrap herself around Starfire's arm, and with one shift, Starfire flips Essence over her shoulder and slams her into the ground. Starfire then says that they both care about Jason. She can sense it in the air when they were all together. Dukra, the Untitled, the League of Assassins, they all have Jason in their sights. Why? Why does everyone want him? Roy was enlisted by her brethren to destroy the seals of the Assassin City. In exchange, they would allow Jason to live. And Essence shouts, asking, and he said yes? This is bad. Very bad. If the Untitled break through the walls of the Eth Eleban, nothing will be able to stop them. Ever. Elsewhere, in a garage somewhere, Roy screws in the last piece of his massive gun, stating that should boost them up to 600 terawatts. Any more, and he'd need some kind of backpack fusion generator thing. Drakkar says that is rather impressive. Their associate did not believe that he'd be able to do this without his alien friend. And Roy takes off his goggles, telling them, yeah, well, after spending a few months with advanced Tamaranian tech, you're bound to become a little creative. Drakkar goes on stating that their associate says that it's time to strike. Is everything ready? Roy shrugs. I could spend a little bit more time tweaking the mini robot programming, but hey, no time like the present to kick some assassin butt, right? Drakkar agrees, telling him that the Untitled will uphold their end of the bargain. They will allow him to take Jason, but he must destroy the gates and the seal on top of the fountain at the heart of the city. Fail in that regard, and if the assassins don't destroy him, they will. Roy quietly tells him, right, great people. Always meeting great folks in this line of work. Back with Starfire, Essence tells her that there has always been a balance, good and evil. The All-Cast and the Untitled, but everything is falling apart. Her family, the All-Cast, she knows their lust for power. She can fight it within herself, but it runs deep and dark. When they found the Will of Sins all those millennia ago, her uncle Drakkar forced them to all drink it. There has never been such a powerful darkness in this world. They still don't fully understand it. They all still fear it. It is capable of stripping them of all of their power permanently, and it wants to take back what it gave them. And it is at the center of the storm that is coming. Starfire asks what the Well of Sins has to do with the League of Assassins, and Essence explains that everything starts with Ra's al Ghul. When she first met him 500 years ago, he came to the Acres of All to learn the untold secrets of the Lazarus pits that he was already using to prolong his life. He had a devil's tongue, and he charmed his way into Dukra's heart. She trained him for a while and ultimately entrusted him with something that she had kept secret for thousands of years. The Lazarus pits are remnants, runoffs of a far more powerful source. They are the children of the first and most powerful Lazarus pit, the Well of Sins. Ra's al Ghul told her that he would create an army to protect its power, but he would never use it for himself. For centuries, that was the case. The Well of Sins sat untouched under his protection. The seal has bound the All-Cast to the League of Assassins. The truce between the All-Caste and the Untitled extended to the League as well. To strike Eth-Alben would be an affront to the balance of good and evil in this world. But by killing Dukra and her pupils, the Untitled will have proven that they are no longer interested in keeping that balance. Starfire asks if there's no other way to defeat the Untitled. There's only the Well of Sins. And Essence goes on stating that she had the essence of pure life implanted in her body, a weapon that she planned to use against Drakkar. She was forced to expel it before she was ready. Dukra knew another way though. It took her a millennia to build the technique. She used it to strip the powers of the Untitled from herself. She offered to teach it to her, but when it was declined, Dukra exiled her from the All-Caste. If Roy destroys the gates, the seal, the Untitled will rip the fountain apart. There will be no stopping them. She must stop him from succeeding, even if it means killing him. A short while later, just outside the gates of the League City, Roy stands as a literal one-man army, armed to the teeth, and says to himself, "All right, buddy boy, the cavalry's arrived." Just a bit away though, Drakkar watches with the rest of the Untitled, and a robed man stating that he can feel it. "It has begun." The robed man says not to be certain, not yet at least. Helping the League is an amnesiac superhero trained by the woman who has kept him and the Untitled at bay for almost 10,000 years. Drakkar scoffs, telling the man that they are desperate. They will fall. Their night will weaken them and they will deliver the killing blow. While the man-bat assassins fly towards Roy, Roy releases his Roy bots, yelling, "Fly, my pretties, fly!" Dozens of small balls begin to fly into the air, shooting tranq darts into the horde of man-bats. But then the Blood Mage makes his move. The Blood Mage tries to attack, but as Roy's shields activate, he laughs. "Ha ha! Look like I can handle this!" The Blood Mage asks, "Do you really want to dance? I'll lead!" Roy charges in, knocking Blood Mage over and throws an ice grenade, freezing him in place, telling him, "I took this one from Mr. Freeze! Sit back and watch the fireworks!" Blood Mage tells him that he'll be watching the next part real close. And just then there's a gunshot and a bullet bounces off of the shield, and Roy asks what was that. Cheshire teleports down, telling them, "Hello, sweetie. Didn't expect to see you again so soon. Just need to grab onto this little shantytown shield generator." As she pulls her arm back, she takes with her a small device, crushing it, and Roy says, I'm pretty sure shantytowns can't afford shield generators like that. But don't worry, I got something special for you. See, I learned a little bit about you, like the short-range teleporter implanted in your wrist that allows you to come and go. Just know that this is only roughly 75% personal. As Roy's gloves spark up, he grabs a hold of Cheshire's wrist and he releases an electrical charge, shorting out the teleporter in her wrist. Cheshire pushes him off, asking what did he do? Someone, anyone, help me! At that moment, she teleports away uncontrollably. And Roy says, "Okay, now to make everything go boom." He focuses his sights on the fountain in the middle of the city, but Jason jumps down, telling him, "You gotta stop this, now. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Roy asks, "Is the guy with no memories really telling me that I don't understand?" That's rich. Jason goes on telling him, "I'm here because I want to be." And Roy asks, "Oh, they brainwashed you now? These are bad guys. They have assassin in their name, Jason." Roy jumps down, kicking Jason back, telling him, "I'm here to save my best friend. He's locked up inside that pretty little head. Now sit back and enjoy the show." He charges up his gun, aiming it at the fountain, but that's when Starfire flies in, destroying the gun, shouting for him to stop. The gun explodes, knocking Roy away, and he asks, "What? Abandoning me and Jason wasn't enough? You came to rub it in!" She floats down, telling him, "You do not understand. The Untitled are manipulating you." Roy then says, "I am getting tired of everyone telling me that I don't know what's going on." But a voice calls out, "So are we." Rictus appears behind Starfire and she quickly turns back, grabbing, asking, "Do you really want to do this?" As Starfire lights him up, Rictus laughs. "I can increase and decrease my density whenever I wish, and I can increase it so much that even an alien as strong as you can't lift me." Soon, Starfire's arm begins to shake and suddenly the weight of Rictus overpowers her and the two go crashing into the ground. Roy begins to get back up, stating, "I'm gonna get us out of here. I could still save." But before Roy could do anything, Jason walks up with the rest of the League of Assassins, telling him, "I'm sorry. Didn't have to be like this." Jason and the others take turns at beating into Roy, and Bronze Tiger delivers the final blow, knocking him into the fountain. Roy climbs up one of the stone spikes surrounding the fountain, telling them, That's not fair. But I still got one more trick up my sleeve. Literally. Well, kind of literally. Crack-a-cathoom! He takes out a small crossbow and he fires a bolt into the fountain. The bolt soars into the air, and when it hits the fountain, it bounces off. But that's when we hear it. Crack-a-cathoom! The massive explosion blows apart the fountain, revealing the well of sins bubbling where the fountain once stood. Shiva grabs Roy by the hair, asking, "Did you know what you have just done? We will all be dying today because of you." And Roy asks, "Yeah, good. Couldn't happen to nicer people." As the other League members surround Roy, Bronze Tiger yells out, "That is enough. We don't have time to mess around. Slit the intruders' throats. We have a war to win." Jason stops him, telling him, "Now, if I'm gonna lead the League of Assassins, then you're gonna have to listen to me. And we are not killing these two." Bronze Tiger begins to state that Ra's al Ghul would never, but Jason stops him. Ra's al Ghul is not here, is he? And being leader, I do what I please. Shiva scoffs, folding her arms, telling him, "This is ludicrous." And Roy laughs. "Haha, you should listen to the boss, man." But a few moments later, Blood Mage runs in yelling, "They're coming! I can feel it! The Untitled are here!" Jason tells Bronze Tiger that they'll lock these two away. Talia brought him back for a reason, and he's gonna figure it all out. And if he doesn't, they can kill him. Deal? Bronze Tiger says that if he doesn't obey, they all die. And Jason shrugs, "Yeah, pretty much, what do you say?" As Roy and Starfire are taken away, Bronze Tiger then asks Jason if he's ready. Can he lead them to victory, then onward to bring utopia to the world? Jason then says that he really hopes so. He has no idea what he's doing, and this all feels like a terrible mistake. But at that moment, his hands begin to glow as the All Blades form, and a voice tells him to take a deep breath. Everything is going exactly according to plan. Jason looks at the twin swords, asking who the hell is talking to him. And Shiva says, "Great, our brainless leader is hearing voices and materializing swords out of nowhere. This bodes well." Bronze Tiger asks if he's ready, and Blood Mage points off in the distance, stating that he sure hopes their fearless leader can figure it out, because it looks like it's time to save the world. Assassin style. As our battle begins, the League members try to hold their own, with Jason stabbing his swords into one of the Untitled. The Untitled then asks him, "What is this?" And Jason cuts through him, telling him, "This is payback." More and more appear as Jason gets to work cutting through them. And then down below in the prison cells, all Roy can hear is the explosions from the fight. He sighs, asking, "What the hell is going on up there?" And for the record, I can see you. I'm gonna keep talking to you whether you like it or not. Cheshire rubs her head, telling him that he's getting really annoying. It was much more fun when he was trying to kill her. And Roy tells her that he's just really, really scared right now. He's scared that somewhere deep down, he made this whole thing much worse. Jason is hurting for totally legit reasons, and we were trying to force him into something he didn't want to be. Now he's pushing Starfire away because she doesn't want to relive something that almost destroyed her the first time around. He's just being selfish. Cheshire doesn't respond, and Roy goes on asking, "Why am I so damn broken? Why does everything I do end up being wrong?" Cheshire fades into the cell, stating that she knows what broken looks like, and he doesn't look like it. But back outside, Drakar grabs Jason by the jacket, telling him, "Look at this! My sister's prized pupil, here to stop me from destroying the Well of Sins, the source of their power. Did these costumed lunatics convince you that you could offer some kind of salvation? Or is it just more of Dukra's trickery?" But as Drakar tries to look inside of Jason's mind, he pauses and says that his mind, she's done something to it. This is far more than simple memory wipes. Jason pushes the swords into Drakar, telling him, "It's more like a simple case of kicking your smoky butt." Drakar laughs, telling him, "The All Blades. I have faced many of my sister's peons wielding these. Do you really think you can kill me?" Jason smiles, telling him, "They're not supposed to kill you. They're steering you." So the two of them begin to fall out of the sky, and Drakar lands directly into the Well of Sins. Back in the prison, Roy asks, "What is she doing?" And Cheshire tells him that she can see it in his eyes. He really does care about them. Everything that he thinks he's done, it's to help them, right? Does he know how many people would tear down the walls of the most dangerous city on the face of Earth just to save her? He isn't broken, he's far from it. Roy sighs, telling her that doesn't change the fact that they're probably going to die any minute. He'll never get to tell them that he's sorry. She holds his hand, telling him to grab on. And Roy asks, "What? Absolutely not! You tried to kill me literally every time that I've met you." Cheshire grabs a hold of his wrist, telling him, "Just shut up!" Over at the Well of Sins, Drakkar pulls himself out, shouting, "No! Someone get me out! The arcane power is reaching inside of me! This can't be happening! They gave me this power! They can't take it away, please!" The Well of Sins then expels Drakkar from the pit and onto the ground, as Jason looks up and sees the other Entitled and tells them, "You can surrender now or face the same fate as your master." The Entitled tells him that he's lucky. Mortals cannot defeat them, and then a voice calls out, "Oh yes, we will." Shiva rides on the back of a man-bat assassin, ordering the swarm to bring them down. And as all of the man-bats begin to drag the Untitled down, each of them is cast into the pit. And Drakkar lunges at Jason from behind, telling him, "I have done battle for centuries! You won't be able to defeat me, so..." But with a loud crack, Bronze Tiger's there snapping his neck. Jason looks at the lifeless body of Drakkar, telling him that he supposes that was necessary, but after everything that monster's done, Shiva hops on the man-bat, stating that this is it. The Untitled die tonight, every last one of them. And Jason says that they can't just kill people without his say-so. If they want him to run this organization, they're going to do things his way. And then a voice asks, "Is that so?" The robed man from before walks in, asking if he came all this way to face a leader of assassins who tells his warriors to sheath their blades. Is he really the one that Talia chose? He expected more. Bronze Tiger steps back, stating that voice, and Shiva smiles. The robed man tells Jason that he played his part well, but the game is over. Jason orders everyone to attack, but Blood Mage says to hold. Do they not know who that man is? Jason walks towards the robed man, asking, "Who are you?" The man says that he's the one who's been planning for this moment for the past 3 centuries. He is the one who gave the Untitled the location of the Acres of All, knowing that they would slay that foul crone Dukra, knowing that they would eventually come here. He is the one who knew that they would fall, imbuing this pit with the power that he has only ever tasted the scraps of once before. Who else could he be, young detective? Who else but Ra's al Ghul? Meanwhile, at the Acres of All, Dukra's spirit and Saru watch the battle, with Dukra stating that this is simple. The end game. Everything falls to Jason. And Saru asks, will he know what to do after they're done with him? Dukra says that Jason has done it before. A long time ago in the city that he called home. And now he must choose it again. Back in the city, Raz rushes forward, grabbing Jason by the throat, asking, "What did my daughter see in you? Why would she leave everything to you? What did she hope to gain?" Jason struggles to breathe. I don't know, man. Raz then blasts him away, telling him, "For the first time in centuries, I seem to not know my own strength. How could the Untitled split the power amongst themselves all of these years? But none of that matters now. The reasons for my daughter and Dukra cannot save a scared amnesiac boy. I will kill you myself." A short while later, Jason is strung up on a cross while Roy and Starfire sit chained to the ground. Cheshire says that she doesn't like this. The Master's eyes. It looks as if he's willing to burn the world to the ground, and she happens to like the world the way it is. Shiva tells her to get on board. This is their true master, not some weakling that Talia thrusted upon them. Tell her, Bronze Tiger. Bronze Tiger looks up. Yes, we must do as our master commands. Jason looks down at Roy, telling him that he's sorry about all of this. They're going to put them to death, and it's entirely his fault. He shouldn't have pushed them away so fast. He can't believe that he thought that they were evil. That's not them, right? They might not be the best guys around, but they're good, aren't they? Now they're just going to die. Roy laughs, telling him, I know one guy that could save us. The one guy who could break us out in a blaze of glory. And all you gotta do is remember. The little dude with blue light said so. You have the power to take back your own memories. You have fought Ra's al Ghul before. You were trained by Batman, Jason. Do you seriously not realize how powerful you can be? That's when Ra's shouts for the League to bring him the prisoners. He will start by killing the loyal compatriots. He's eager to test the killing power of these new abilities. Are you watching, boy? Imagine the blades in your own hand. You're the one who did this. Jason watches as Roy and Starfire are dragged away, and he says quietly that he wants to remember. He wants to remember who he is! At that moment, a flood of memories begin to pour in. His life as a child, his time with Batman, his doings with Roy and Starfire. He remembers everything. Elsewhere, Dukra and Essence watch, and Dukra says no. This can't be happening now. This is not how it's planned out. And back in the city, Roz asks what is happening as Jason is pulling himself free of the chains, and he tells him that they really should be more up to date on these bronze Chinese padlocks. Batman told me how to pick these my first second in the cave. And speaking of bats, several of the Man-Bat serum-fueled assassins fly in, with Jason fighting them off, telling him, "I only spent 6 weeks training under Shiva. They could have been students for years and they still can't land a punch." Shiva attacks, telling him that she appreciates how highly he thinks of her. And Jason tells her, "Not so much highly, I just know how dangerous you can be. There's one thing that you taught me though, a few shortcuts to keep the upper hand when I needed it, literally in this case." He chops Shiva in the back of the head, knocking her out, and Roz shouts to kill him. Bronze Tiger gets ready to jump in, but he tells Cheshire that he knows what she's thinking, just do it now. Bronze Tiger then roars as he lunges for Jason, telling him that he can assure him that there are no shortcuts to defeating him. And while they begin their battle, Cheshire sneaks over to Starfire, telling her to get as hot as she can in about 3 seconds, like heat-wise. As her poisons melt the chains holding her down, she tells Roy that this might sting a little. Bronze Tiger grabs Jason by the leg, and Jason yells that they used to be friends, and Bronze Tiger says, "I'd killed friends before." That's when a rock is thrown at Bronze Tiger and he asks who dares, and Starfire rockets in, punching him across the city. Roy helps Jason up, telling him that it's good to see him again, and Jason tells him, "I'm sorry that you had to trick me like this. I didn't think it was going to go down like this." Roy asks, "What?" And Jason asks, "Wait, did you not figure it out? This has been the plan from the very beginning. You take the wizard and the Tin Man, I've got a bucket of water that I gotta introduce to a certain wicked witch." Outside of the city, Essence yells that this is it. The tides are turning, and Dukra says no, it's not. It's imperative that Jason not recover his memories until the very end. He was meant to be purified, clean. Jason Todd just walked into his own death with his memories back. He finally knows that this is the end. Months ago, at the Acres of All, Seru welcomes Jason in his sarcastic fashion, stating, "Look, the prodigal son has returned." Jason asks, where is she? He knows that Dukra is the one who summoned him here, and he is really not in the mood to be messed with after these past few weeks. At that moment, Dukra's spirit appears, stating that they are the keepers of the light. They are the All-Cast, and their destiny has ever been to fight the war against the one true darkness, the war against the Untitled. He is all that remains, and there is a great darkness blooming. Ra's al Ghul has taken command of the Untitled. He seeks to take their power for himself. He seeks to become a god. Jason asks how they stop Ra's al Ghul, and Dukra tells him that the power to stop Ra's rests in him. He's done it before as a young man in Gotham City. The final battle will take place in the Well of Sins. With all of the doubt and fear clouding his mind, it will eat him whole. Jason says, "Okay, well, I'm not hearing any solutions." And Dukra asks, "How much will you sacrifice to save the world?" And Jason stops her. "Everything." She tells him good, because that's precisely what she needs from him. They must strip him of his memories. He must enter the scenario as his purest, truest self. He can allow his memories to come back, but if he does it too soon, he may not survive. Now, we go to the final battle at the sacred city of the League of Assassins, with Ra's al Ghul asking if he thought that coming to the Well of Sins would grant him power. "You're showing none of the cunning of your mentor. The power seeks a master worthy of it, a master that can withstand what it has to offer. Now feel it, Jason. Feel the weight of the sins of this world." Apparitions begin to appear around Jason, all taking the forms of the Joker, and they all begin to laugh at him. Jason starts to look around, stating that these can't be real. These can't be real. He falls to his knees as Ra's goes on, telling him, "I know not why my daughter took special interest in you, but all I see is failure. Do you wish it all to end? Just say the word. The demon's head can be very merciful." Jason quietly tells himself, "Accept the darkness, embrace the light. Accept the darkness, embrace the light." And Ra's asks, "What are you muttering?" Jason forms the All Blades and he cuts through the Jokers, with Ra's asking, "How are you doing this?" Jason tells him, "I'm just a little bit stronger than people give me credit for. More than I can say about you. You got your own demons, isn't that right, Ra's? Why don't you look them in the face?" An apparition appears behind Ra's, taking the form of Talia, his daughter. He begins to shout, asking, "How dare you use the power of the well against me? Do you think you can get under my skin so easily? The two clash swords as Jason tells Roz, you've never felt any remorse for the evils that you've committed. There isn't enough human left in you to fight and control the powers of the Untitled. You're weaker now than I've ever seen you before. Jason then smacks the sword out of his hands. The old Roz would never have allowed that to happen, not in 100 years. It's tearing you apart from the inside out. But me? I'm that strong. I can control it. And you know what makes me strong? It's not because of Batman. It's because of Starfire and Roy. Jason pulls his arms back along with the shadows of his friends, stating, there's a move that I learned from Talia many years ago. Something arcane and powerful that only a force of true good is capable of delivering. Jason then shadow punches into Roz's chest, expelling the Untitled's power as Roz is screaming, no! And outside the city, Dukra says that it's happening. Prepare yourself, daughter. Essence asks for what, and suddenly she feels power surging through her. She falls over, stating, this is too much. I can't fight it all. Dukra tells her that she is her daughter. She holds the essence of all of her teachings inside of her. Remember them. You must master the darkness. Fight through the pain. Reshape all that blackness, all that evil into light. Back inside, Roz grabs Jason, asking him, how dare you strip me of that power? Kill them all. Rip them apart. But as Roz gives the order, a beam of light hits him and Essence says, I think not. Roz asks, who does she think she is to tell him what to do with his army? And Essence tells him that she knows the location of every Lazarus pit in the world. She is the one who has the power to hunt them down and destroy them all. He will back down. He will allow the three of them to leave this place, or he will be forced to die a pathetic mortal death, just as he has always feared. The All Cast will make sure of it. Roz gets back up yelling, but Bronze Tiger stops him, stating that they do not need their power to achieve the utopia that they've dreamed of. Roz snarls, yelling for them to get out of his sight. If I ever see you again, Jason, there will be stories of your agony for centuries. Essence begins to create a passage for everyone, and Jason laughs, stating that he's looking forward to it. Seconds later, at the Acres of All, Jason tells Essence that he appreciates the help. Where's Dukra anyway? He'd like to, but Essence tells him that she's gone now, and who knows for good or not, but her power lives again. Jason asks what will she do with the All-Cast power, and Essence says that she will rebuild the All-Cast. They will rise again and they will tip the balance of the world back towards good. Will you join me, Jason Todd? Jason folds his arms, stating that if she knows him, she already knows the answer. He's had enough magic for a long time. It's about time to go back out to punching regular baddies without having to worry about immortals or mind wipes. Roy asks, what does that mean? What's next? And Jason tells him, it's about time. Time for us to do something good for once. The next night in Gotham City, a man asks if she wants him to come inside, and Isabel says that she's sorry, but not tonight, Jonathan. Jonathan laughs, telling her that it's okay. There are other nights. But can he just say one thing? He really likes her. He liked her since they met at the hospital. And there's something about her that says that she's not all in, that she's waiting for someone, and she has been for the past few months. He's waiting too, and he's happy to wait. But she needs to ask herself, what does she really want out of life? The fantasy or the reality? What's standing right in front of her? Isabel goes inside, closing the door, letting out a loud sigh. She sits down asking what is she doing, but at that moment dozens of small robots appear and they start yelling, the Isabel has returned! We bring a message! Broadcasting live! Suddenly a hologram of Jason Todd appears and he asks, how's it going? Long time no see. Look, there is a private jet at Kane County Airfield. It's waiting for you to take you to a private resort island in the Mediterranean called the Elysium. Isabel yells that he left her to die after the Joker overdosed her. And Jason tells her, look, I want to explain everything that happened, but more importantly, I want to see you. Please, I promise nothing crazy this time. So 12 hours later, as Jason, Roy, Starfire, and Isabel all stand with their backs together surrounded by dozens of cyborgs, Isabel says that if these things don't kill Jason, she will. And Jason tells her, yeah, that's totally fair. But earlier that day, Isabel looks out onto the balcony stating that it's beautiful. And Jason tells her that he wanted to pick a place that reminded him of her. This almost does the job. As Jason leans in for a kiss, Isabel turns away, stating that they shouldn't get ahead of themselves. But it'll be nice to spend some time together, just the two of them. And Jason says, right, about all of that? A few moments later, out in the lobby, Roy and Starfire walk through, with Starfire stating that the stupid machine is broken. Roy tells her no, the holographic generator is not broken, she just keeps fiddling with it. Starfire shouts asking why should she hide the way she looks, and Roy says because they want to walk around like normal people, so that others don't try to show up and kill them. She begins to change her hair to black, and Jason calls out stating that their guest has arrived. Starfire runs over hugging Isabel, stating that it's so good to see her again, it's beautiful here, isn't it? And Isabel says that she's never heard of this place. Roy says that it's Elysium. You can only get here by private charter, and only if you prove that you're worth at least a few $100 million. This is where the trust fund babies and celebrities go to bump uglies in the best dance clubs and casinos in the Mediterranean. Now, how about we all have a nice night and dance? Later that night out on the dance floor, Jason says, admit it, you missed this. And Isabel tells him that this was never the problem. The problem was having a target painted on her head before she even knew who he was. The problem was that she was transported into the midst of an intergalactic war. The problem was making her a target for a serial killer clown. She's gonna get a drink. Across the floor, Roy and Starfire are dancing, and as Roy leans in, a large man pulls Roy off, asking Starfire why she's messing with this bozo. How about she comes to his yacht with him? And there's a staff of 100 people there for him. So why don't they go? Starfire's eyes begin to glow as she grabs the man by the arm and breaks his elbow. Isabel runs over asking what the hell is going on here, and Starfire tells her nothing. These men are beneath our consideration. As the two girls go back to dancing, Jason says that she seems so far away. He thought bringing her here might make it all come back, but her mind is somewhere else entirely. He's not sure that this was a good idea. And then he sees her dancing out there, and it's like Isabel's the only person in the room. Roy leans in and says that he hates to break it to him, but he isn't being poetic. You're actually being literal. Jason looks around the empty room, grabbing Isabel, stating that they need to get out of here. At that moment, a voice then asks, where are you going? This place used to be a barren rock before I came and transformed it into what you see here. Jason turns back to see a man in gold, and he says, Midas. And Midas asks, oh, you've heard of me. Jason says that he knows of him. Susie Sue was trying to court his criminal empire for years, but she never found his core base of operations. He also knows how many people were killed to get the empire off the ground, even children. Is that what this place is? Some kind of death trap? Midas tells him, oh, no. That would be too obvious. I use all the money to build this place, and then I use the money from here to build an army. Jason asks, what army? And suddenly a dozen cyborgs surround the group, with Midas telling him, meet the army of the Golden Hand. Roy whispers, next time, let me talk to the supervillain. As Jason takes out the All Blades, Roy runs over to the coat checker, stating that he needs to get his bag. Here's the ticket. The clerk asks what is he, but before he could finish, Roy punches him in the face. One of the cyborgs grabs a hold of Isabel, stating that they thought this alien would be the toughest to take down, and Starfire shoots through the air, blasting the cyborg, stating, you are gravely mistaken on all counts. Isabel tries to dodge the gunfire, stating, oh god, before running into two more cyborgs. Jason then cuts through the two of them and asks, are you okay? And Isabel tells him, no, definitely a no. Roy calls out to catch before throwing Isabel a blaster, telling her, you know how to use this, right? She turns, shooting one of the cyborgs, stating, yeah, point and click. While the fighting is going on, Midas heads outside, boarding a helicopter, telling his men to send word that Island 7 has fallen. Let them return to the Golden Hand. And a short while later, as the heroes stand atop of a mound of destroyed cyborgs, Roy asks how much does everyone want to bet that Midas left the island. Jason tells Starfire to scour the grounds, and they need to make sure that there aren't any more cyborgs out there ready to ruin their night. Midas is going to fall, and they're going to make it happen. Isabel tosses the blaster to the ground, though, telling him, rah, 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 Team Red Hood to the rescue. Jason reaches out, telling her, look, once we're done here, we can sit and talk this through. We can make this work, Isabel. But she tells him no, they can't. She can't. She's been living in this fantasy world for too long. She finally knows what she's been waiting for, and she's been waiting to give herself permission to have a normal life. She cares about him, but this is beyond her. It's fun and exciting and dangerous, but it's not anything she ever wanted for herself, and it's not anything she would have ever chosen. It's all extraordinary. It's their job to keep fighting against the monsters like that man. And if the fight ever ends, and we're not going to pretend that that's anytime soon, you know where to find me, Jason. But for now, this is goodbye. And with a final kiss, Isabel walks away. The next day, Roy Harper sits aboard the Temerian ship on their secret island, tinkering away with his new pet project, asking what's wrong. This tiny robot has a nuclear core, 17 microns of hypergelignite, and a level 12 AI processor. Why isn't it doing anything? He sighs in frustration as he sits back when suddenly the tiny robot springs up and skitters across the floor, climbing up into the air vents. Roy quickly jumps out of his chair, crawling over to the duck to chase it. But meanwhile, over in the cockpit of the ship, 3 figures begin to teleport in. As the aliens appear, one asks, shouldn't they deactivate the security system? And what seems to be the leader says that the Tamranian princess, she thinks she knows security. The fact that they got this far easily proves otherwise. But Tamaranians do know about interstellar travel, which is why you're here, and why we've commandeered this ship. Lift off in 10, 9, Roy stumbles out of the air duct, grabbing onto the robot, stating, "Ha! Gotcha!" And then he hears the engines kicking in. He looks outside to see the ship taking off and simply says to himself, "Oh, this can't be good." Outside, Jason watches the ship rocket off into the sky, and he radios to Starfire asking, "Why the hell is your ship leaving?" She responds, "Her ship? It's hers, because it came from her planet. Roy's the one who's actually in the ship. Why don't you ask him?" Jason tells her that he's been trying, but he can't reach him on the comm link. Not on his cell phone, and not even with the psychic trapdoor that he set up with them through the League of Assassins. Starfire asks him what trapdoor, and Jason tells her, "Don't worry about it. The point is, our boy Roy ain't answering on anything." Starfire flies down, stating that the ship is gone and something is wrong with Roy. They're stuck here. This can't be good. So moments later, in deep space, Roy crawls back into the air ducts and sees the 3 aliens and thinks to himself that, well, he needs to do something, so how about... At that moment, he just starts shouting, "Hey, hey, hey, hey!" And he shoves the tiny robot out. The aliens look back and one of the larger ones picks up the robot asking, "What is this?" The tiny robot begins to beep, and several seconds later, it explodes, blasting that alien to pieces. The leader of the group then pulls the guts off of his shoulder, and Roy watches, stating, "All right, it's time for me to step into the spotlight." But before he can make his entrance, he sees the pieces of the aliens begin to reform, and the alien groans as his body comes back together. He yells, "That gives me a buzz. Anybody else get that feeling?" And Roy pauses for a minute, stating, "Okay, wait, stop. New plan." He turns back and makes his way into the computer room to try and get a better picture of the situation. Then he sees one of the aliens loading something into the chute. The alien leader of the group enters a series of commands into the console when the large canister that the other alien loaded is fired out and down onto the nearby planet. Roy rubs his chin, asking, what could that be? Are these guys scientists? The planet down there's a paradise. Maybe I misjudged them. Or maybe it's a probe? At that moment, the canister explodes and hundreds of self-replicating nanobots pour out. Hundreds turn into thousands, then millions, then billions. Roy watches, stating, "That isn't a probe. It's a weapon. One that just wiped out a whole planet. Wait, there's something else. If viewable from space, the emblem on the aliens' coats is then imprinted onto the planet." And Roy asks, "Just who are these guys?" Roy hurries back, grabbing his bone quiver, stating, "Okay, 3 against 1, might as well make some trouble, right?" Once the courage builds up, Roy kicks open the duct and he begins to load his arrows, with the leader of the group shouting, "Ah, get him!" Roy flips a switch on the battery pack on him, and then wires hang out of the duct, and the larger aliens grab hold, pulling him out. He tells himself that he just has to wait and deal with the punches until... The battery pack then opens up as it reads, "Charged." The leader of the group pulls an arrow out of his head, telling the others to just hurry up and kill this guy. Their buyer will be here in a minute, and he will be less than pleased if things aren't ready. Roy smiles through the hit, stating, "Good night, ladies!" And he pushes the button on his battery pack. Suddenly, electricity shoots out of the pack, striking each one of the 3 aliens repeatedly, with Roy getting back up, stating, "Booyah!" As the aliens' bodies begin to crumple onto the floor, burnt up, Roy walks back over to the computer, telling himself that he's going to need some aspirin. Lots of it. As he grabs the bottle, a call comes in with Jason shouting, Roy, are you alive? Is everything okay?" Roy tells him to relax, everything's fine. These 3 aliens stole the ship with me in it. I took care of things. So, why are you calling me now? Jason tells him that the aliens must have been blocking all transmissions, but don't worry, him and Starfire will be there soon. Roy tells him, all right, let's just get a few things straightened out here. Wait, what is that buzzing? Just then, Roy is hit with a blast and knocked to the ground. Before he can get back up, he feels a heavy boot pressed down on him, and a voice tells him, "Don't waste your breath. It's going to be taken away in a second anyway. I've been watching you and listening. I've seen everything. These idiots I hired were pretty bad, right? Saves me the trouble of having to pay them. All I need to do now is finish up the loose ends here, and then those friends, well, don't worry about them. You're gonna be meeting them soon enough, you know, when everyone's dead. Now time to take that big gun and destroy this whole planet. Booyah! Lobo begins to laugh as he puts pressure on his foot, squeezing what little air is left in Roy. Lobo kneels down with his cigar, telling him, "You shouldn't feel bad. You are gonna die along with 6 billion others on this planet. All the animals, plants, fish, birds, and other vermin are cluttering up that rock." Roy struggles, telling him, "You're bluffing! We are way too far from Earth for you to fire that gizmo." Lobo shouts, "Shoot at Earth? No, that's too small. There's a war brewing, a big one, like Ron and Thanagar. That sort of thing. Firing a weapon at Earth isn't gonna get much attention from the buyers. If you want a high prize, you're gonna need lots of attention. That's why I ain't aiming at the planet. I'm aiming at a star, a white dwarf. I'm gonna make it into a black hole." Lobo then begins to blow smoke in Roy's face, telling him, "I know everything about astrophysics. It's about time that you get real scared." As Lobo taunts Roy, the recovered aliens get back up with the leader stating that they can't seem to find where the signal from the other ship is. It just disappeared. Lobo asks, "How does a ship disappear? This is a state-of-the-art war vessel. The stuff on this ship can find anything." At that moment, Jason radios into Roy, telling him to get out of the way. "Find somewhere to hide and close your eyes." Roy begins to ask why when there's a bright flash of light as the small spaceship teleports into the cockpit. Jason steps out, helping Roy, telling him, "Hola, amigo." And Roy asks, "How?" Jason tells him, "Look, it's a long story. We stole a ship, which we used to steal another ship, and well, here we are. I guess it isn't such a long story after all." Roy kicks Lobo's hand, telling him, "Whatever, I appreciate the effort. Save my butt and the butts of billions." And Jason asks, "All right, so what do we need to know now? What's the top priority?" Roy tells him, "Well, first things first, there's a weapon on the ship that we need to dismantle right away. Trust me on that, and when that's done, we can take care of the bad guys." As the three begin to walk away, Lobo grabs onto Starfire's leg, slamming her into the side of the ship that they arrived in. Jason then cracks Lobo in the back of the head, asking, "Did you forget about us?" And Lobo laughs, "Yo, I guess I did, but I think you also forgot about them." Lobo's mercenaries pull themselves out, and one quickly grabs a hold of Jason, and then he cuts off the alien's arm. Jason then asks, "Is there anything else I need to know?" And the severed arm begins to reattach itself. Roy tells him, "Yeah, they heal." The second large alien charges in, punching Roy in the side, and Jason says, "Okay, just need to slice and dice these guys a lot more. Hold still in." The alien fighting Jason then reaches out, snatching his sword, snapping it in half. And as the alien tries slashing Jason with a broken sword, Jason tells Starfire that he could really use one of those atomic energy blasts right about now. Her eyes begin to glow as she states, "With pleasure." And the leader alien laughs. "Haha, pathetic. A pure-blood Tamaranian warrior following around a bunch of inferior breeds from a backyard planet as if you were a lapdog. You've lost your edge. War is science, and you haven't kept up with the recent advancements. Advancements in strategy, weaponry, and of course, verbal psionic trigger phrases." The alien then shouts something in a strange language, and before Starfire could stop him, she grabs a hold of her head, screaming out in pain. Roy starts to get back up and quickly scans the area, trying to come up with a plan. What is he gonna do? Jason's busy, and Starfire's knocked out, and Lobo he's getting the weapons set up. After a few moments, the larger aliens look around, asking where the guy in the red suit went. Lobo continues his work, telling them to go find him, beat him, and drag him back. After all he and his friends have done to them, they've earned a front row seat to the end of the world. Their world, to be specific, bastards. Meanwhile, on another part of the ship, Roy is making last-minute adjustments to another robot when the two large aliens appear behind him. One of them picks up Roy, and the other two begin to punch him. After a bit, they return to the cockpit, dragging Roy with them just as Lobo launches the canister. As the canister goes flying, it changes course, and the leader alien says that the projectile is heading back towards them. Lobo asks, "How is that even possible?" And Roy begins to laugh. He then asks, "What did you do?" And Roy says, "Anything is possible when you turn someone's ultimate weapon into their own." At that moment, there's a clicking sound followed by several more. The room is then filled with nanobots, but before Lobo can claw his way out, all of them disappear along with Lobo and his mercenaries. Jason sits back up asking, "What just happened?" And Roy tells him, "Nanotech, don't think too much about it. All you need to know now is that Lobo and his goons are far, far away." Jason tells him, "Right." So the trained assassin gets his sword snapped, the warrior princess is knocked out, and the fate of the world hangs by a thread. And then you saved the day with a toy robot the size of my thumb. Makes sense. Roy tells him, "Yep, that's about the size of it." Jason stares. "Wow." And Starfire wakes up. "Yes, wow." As a large plane is carrying terrorists over to the Capitol building in the US, The soldiers inside wait for their orders. A short man walks through telling everyone that tonight we soar over this nation's debauched and disgusting capital. Tonight we blah 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 meep meep meep. Well, there may have been more, but Jason kinda stopped listening at this point. Soon the hatch opens up and they begin to release the soldiers, but before they move out, a soldier asks another if everything is okay. He looks a bit disturbed. Jason slaps down his helmet telling him, yeah, everything's fine. In fact, I'm having the time of my life. He opens fire on every one of those terrorists. With the pilots hearing the gunfire, they ask what the hell is going on there. Shooting a gun in here would be insane. At that moment, there's a thump on the windshield. Roy repositions himself and pulls back on his bow, stating, no, this is insane! As he lets go, 2 arrows break through that glass and they land into both of the pilots. Roy then climbs aboard and tells him, I'm in. And Jason tells him, good, had my doubts, now duck. Before he could ask, Jason throws one of the leaders of the terrorists into the cockpit, and out the window, Roy busts out. Roy shrugs, telling him, huh? At least I was being helpful. Jason goes back to take out the rest of the terrorists when a small hologram pops up next to Roy and the man on it says, it matters not, soon they will be dead. You American scum! Roy asks if he's really being heckled by a racist hologram. Man, how far have I fallen? The hologram continues to insult Roy, so Roy then asks if this is his thing. Just hurling out all of this bull. Wait, just then Roy sees the true target in front of them, a bomber loaded up with a giant bomb. He shouts that this isn't the target. The bomber's going to drop a nuke over Washington. Jason pauses for a moment, asking if that's necessarily a bad thing, and Roy yells, what the hell? So Jason tells him, fine, Starfire, you're on. Outside, Starfire radios back asking if he thought that she was waiting for his permission. As the nuke is dropped, she flies over to catch it and then kicks it. Both Jason and Roy ask if she really did just kick a nuke. Starfire sighs, telling them, fine, hang on. She flies down to the pond below, catching the nuke and safely detonates it underwater. Jason and Roy asks if that's really safe as a small bubble pops out of the water, and Starfire says that she believes that this is one of those few moments. Once the plane has landed, Starfire flies over to give Roy a kiss, and Roy says that he should probably ease up a bit. Jason is still a little sensitive about the Isabel thing. Starfire flies over telling Jason that she has something for him, and she kisses him as well. Roy begins to yell out, whoa, 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 boyfriend here! And Jason pulls back asking, yeah, what was that about? Starfire says that Roy told her that he was feeling lonely. She just wanted to assure him that he is never alone, and that the 3 of them have each other. Roy laughs, separating the 2 of them, stating, I wouldn't phrase it like that. We should probably just go home and get some sleep. In our respective beds, of course. At that moment, there's a loud explosion of light and everyone is knocked out. Sometime later, Jason begins to wake up with Starfire telling him, good, you are alive. Roy readies his bow, stating that he just woke up a few minutes ago, still trying to figure out who took them prisoner. Jason groans, getting up, stating that, no one took us prisoner. We were knocked out. Whoever it is, they could have taken our weapons, but they didn't. We aren't prisoners. We're guests. Suddenly, a large steel door opens, and a man steps through, telling them, that is correct. You are guests of Shade. My name is Dr. Kurt Langstrom, acting head of security for Shade. We have brought you here today to speak with Princess Coriander. Earlier, a construct nearly collided with a NASA space station. We have determined that it was a ship. Also working on this is Dr. Ray Palmer. Palmer will go ahead and explain things further. Ray tells them that when they obtained this, they thought it was just cargo. There were no signs of life coming out of it from the inside. Starfire asks if they want her to use her solar powers to cut their way in. The ship can already withstand the rigors of space, clearly. Ray tells her, no, actually, we brought you in because the ship is broadcasting a single message, over and over and over. Princess Coriander of Tamarin, you are our final hope. Starfire looks back at the ship, pausing for a moment, and then tells everyone that she's going to need a moment. She opens the door and walks in. And a few moments later, she lets out a blood-curdling scream. Seconds later, she rockets to the top of the ship and out of the building. Kirk Langstrom turns back asking what the hell was that, and Roy says, how should we know? You're the ones that kidnapped us. Jason runs inside and Roy quickly follows, and what they find is a ship full of dead aliens, some chained to the walls. Jason walks back out, stating that they must have been slaves. They must have been running. They came looking for Starfire. Sadly, they didn't reach her in time. Later, over at the city of Abu Dhabi, Starfire flies down onto the top of a very expensive hotel with determination in her eye. She scans the area and sees a man flaunting his wealth to a woman, and that's when they make eye contact with Starfire, and she blows them up. The two people lean forward, revealing themselves to be aliens, and one asks if that was really necessary. She just picked the last place on Earth to pull a stunt like that. Soon everyone reveals their true forms, and Starfire begins to blast away, stating that she's heard rumors of this establishment, a place where dregs of the universe come to spend their ill-gotten bounties. For years she was willing to leave you to your debauchery, but no more. She will see him, who is the most base and vile among them. At that moment, a large alien jumps down onto Starfire, pinning her to the ground, asking, "Were you looking for me?" Seconds later, Starfire ignites herself. The alien jumps off and squeals, and Starfire rubs her head, stating, "No, I was not, but to your regret, you will certainly do." After knocking out the rest of the aliens, Starfire turns her attention back to the ones who attacked her, stating, "I'll be honest, Trevorall, I don't care how you came to this planet or how long you've been here. I'm only looking for your once and former overlord. Whether he lives or dies tonight is entirely up to you." Trevorall yells that if he tells her, "I'm as good as dead, have mercy," she burns her hand into Trevorall, stating, "That was the wrong answer. Clearly, you need motivation." She shoots off into the sky with Trevorall, telling her, "Will you just put me out of my misery? I will put you out of your misery, but refuse, and I will keep you alive for weeks." Trevorall cries out, 30872 Pacific Edge, Malibu. So later that night, at the address that Trevorall gave to Starfire, lightning strikes over the small house as a baby cries in its crib. A gentle older man reaches down, picking up the baby, stating, "Shh, Grandpapa here. There's no reason for tears." Soon the baby falls back asleep, but as the lightning strikes again, the man sees Starfire outside of that window, burning with rage. He puts the sleeping baby back into its crib and then quietly opens up the front door, asking Starfire, "Would you like to come in?" As she enters, the man states, "This is my home. My wife and granddaughter are here. If you have something you'd like to discuss, let's just be civil about it. Can I offer you a drink?" She breaks the bottle, yelling, "I am not here for a drink or to meet your family. I am here to avenge the death of so many who have suffered and died at your hands. I am here to kill you." The man recoils, telling her, "You must be the Coriander of Tamarin. I am sorry that this has come to this. Though I suppose I always knew that it would be a matter of time. I've led a good life, a full life, certainly much more than I could have ever imagined considering everything that I've done." She thinks back, stating, "You could save it for someone who wasn't there. I can still remember the first time that I met you, the keeper of slaves. The others told me, the first night, that you had a heart of stone. But I knew better. A monster such as you had no heart at all." The man closes his eyes. "It's all true, but things changed. I've changed. When you and the others stormed the camp, I escaped and made my way to Earth. Only just barely. I was found. I should have killed her, but I couldn't. She was too beautiful, too compassionate. I married, I took a job, and I adopted a child. And later that child would give me a grandchild. It was the last time that I saw the memory of the people that I'd hurt in my past. If it means anything, I'm so very, very sorry for the man I once was." Starfire tells him, "No, it means less than nothing." The man sighs, asking, "Can we do it outside? This is my family's home. The only thing that they've ever done wrong is love a monster like me." Lightning strikes again as the two go outside and the man kneels on the ground, and at that moment, Starfire focuses her powers in her hand with Jason and Roy calling out that she is better than this. Starfire shouts that this has nothing to do with them. They have not witnessed the crimes that this man has committed. Jason and Roy jump down and Jason says that they don't care about him, they care about her. Roy then says that they don't want to see her make a mistake. They've all done things that they aren't proud of. Don't let this man turn you into something that you're not. Starfire tells them not to ask her to walk away from this. Jason, of all people, knows why she has to do it. But if they ask her not to do it, she won't. But she cannot say for sure if she will ever forgive them. Jason says that he ruled her life as a child. Don't give him anything else. Without saying a word, Starfire flies off into the sky, and the man yells, "No!" Jason tells him to relax, and the man says, "You don't understand! She was right! The man then grabs one of Roy's arrows and pushes it against his neck. The arrowhead explodes, blowing apart the man. But later, at the hidden island of the outlaws, Starfire returns to her ship. As she goes inside, she opens up a container, and inside it is the drug that made her docile. Rain pounds against the window as Jason sits in a hospital room holding the hand of one of his best friends, Roy Harper. Jason thinks to himself that he's been fighting this darkness inside of him, and it's all thanks to him. The guy just won't take screw off for an answer. But as Jason sits in silence, Roy turns his head, and he tells him, "Find her. Bring her home." Jason tells him no, not yet, not until he's out of danger. He then opens up the IV bag to allow more medicine to put Roy back to sleep. He then sits back down. How did this all happen? How did one of his best friends get burned over 90% of his body? Well, it all started 4 days ago in Malibu. Jason and Roy were at the home of the former intergalactic slave trader, the one who imprisoned Starfire when she was younger. They had just convinced Starfire to not kill him, but the man took it upon himself to do the job for her. And after cleaning up that mess, Jason and Roy headed back to their hidden island to go look for the now missing Starfire. And found her they did. Washed up on the beach, Starfire laid as the waves crashed into her, her eyes glazed in black. After a few moments, they lit up the vivid green that they've always been, and she rocketed up into the sky as if everything was normal. When they tried to explain what happened back in Malibu, she didn't seem to care, which was strange in of itself. But back at the New Orleans General Hospital, Jason continues to sit and wait. It's then that his eyes dart forwards towards the door and he pulls out his guns. The man who enters is Oliver Queen, or better known as Green Arrow in the superhero world. Oliver tells Jason to put the guns away. He just wants a few moments with Roy, alone. Jason thinks back to the way that Oliver treated Roy, throwing him out when Roy needed him most. But they should at least have a chance to clear the air if this is Roy's last night. But back when this all happened, Jason and the others set out for the swamps of Louisiana to track down the terrorist group that they'd encountered before. While Jason and Roy were sloshing through the muck, Starfire took it upon herself to fly on ahead. She blasted her way into a cabin in the middle of the woods, and when Jason and Roy caught up, she was already fighting off a horde of things. Starfire began to fight them off, but partly through, she suddenly took off, like she was scared or something. As any good friend would do, Jason told Roy to follow Starfire while he takes care of these. And without hesitation, Jason jumped into the pit of all the creatures. He then noticed something about them. They were super strong, like unnaturally strong. And after being knocked into a pile of boxes, Jason pulled himself out and sees a small metal device strapped to the men's feet with vials injecting something into them. With a quick swipe of a knife, Jason takes off one of the ankle devices and inspects it. Then it hits him. He knows what this is. He needs an advantage here if he's going to make it out alive. Meanwhile, outside, Roy caught up to Starfire, asking if everything is okay. She told him no as she pulls the needle out after injecting herself with the space drug that she had been forced to take for so long. And Starfire said that she was weak, and she is sorry, but they must stay away from her. Before Roy could tell her no, Starfire loses control of her powers and rockets off into the sky, leaving a fiery explosion in her wake. And Roy, he was caught in the middle of that. Back in the cabin that night, though, Jason began to feel alone. Completely, gloriously, and finally alone. And God help him, he didn't want it to end. At least that's how it felt. The truth is, since injecting the venom into his body, his heart rate had risen above 85. It's like any change that took place in his body was done on a molecular level. But in his mind, these men look like monsters. It makes it easy to do what needs to be done. He breaks a monster's arm, kicks the teeth out of another, and before long, it all begins to fade. He looks around at his work, and not a single terrorist is moving. Serves them right for trying to drop a nuke on Washington, D.C. Just as the venom drug is leaving his body, he falls back, passing out. As soon as he comes to, though, he races out of the cabin, and what he finds is the place on fire. He looks around to see Roy's burnt quiver, and realizes that while Roy is a smart guy, maybe even a genius, he's a guy that's going to need his arrows. And if his quiver was burned off of him. Hours before Jason was coming to, Starfire was flying down over a hospital holding the charred body of Roy in her arms. She told the nurses outside that this man needs medical attention immediately, and the nurses state that that's not how this works. He needs to be processed through ER, and she tries to hold back her anger as the trees burn around her. She tells them, "I wasn't asking." Back in the present day, Jason explains what the nurses told him when Roy was dropped off. Oliver Queen says, yeah, the girl sounds like a real peach. Starfire nearly fried him and then dropped him off. You want to throw a parade? I always knew that Roy was an idiot. Guess it was just confirmation with him hanging around you too. Jason stares, telling Oliver, maybe we should take our conversation outside. Once in the hallway, Jason tells him that he's been around the billionaire types before. They all think that they can solve every problem with money. Oliver stops him. Most, sure. Watch and learn. He turns around, taking out his phone, telling the person that he needs an evac. While that is en route, he'll also need the best burn unit in the world in a bed. And just as he hangs up, there's a loud vroom from inside of the room and the two quickly run back in. Over Roy's bed, Essence stands there with Oliver shouting, asking, "What the hell?" As Oliver checks on Roy, Essence tells Jason that the danger has passed, but it will still be a while before he can move. She did all she can do for him. Jason asks, will he be seeing her again? And Essence tells him, not likely. Her debt is paid. A short while later, Jason gets ready to take off to look for Starfire, but as he takes off, he wonders how he's even going to bring her back. And then he looks at all of the canisters of venom that he took from the terrorists. Back in the hospital, Roy is watching Jason leave through the window when he notices Oliver sitting there. He tells Roy that they need to talk, and Roy asks him, do we? Oliver leans in, telling him not to be rude. From the looks of it, he's his last friend in the world. Roy scoffs, telling him, you're off by 2. Jaybird's gonna look for the one person that knows more about Starfire than probably she even knows. Crux. When we last left off, Oliver leaned in, telling Roy that he didn't want to be rude. But from the looks of things, he was the last friend that Roy had. And Roy told him that Chamber is just looking for the one person who knows more about Starfire than him. Crux. This person's going to help. So the next day, a doctor sits in a wheelchair in front of Crux, and Crux says, good. A visitor. I haven't eaten in a week. The doctor tells the Arkham security that they're no longer needed and to leave them be. The guards begin to step out, and one says that he really isn't comfortable with this, but they have their orders. So Crux begins to pull on his chains, and he says, you would be the 9th doctor sent in to try and cure me. Give me a good reason why I shouldn't be eating your bones right now. The doctor says because the ones before him were foolish enough to believe that they could cure him. For him, he's here to kill him. That is, if he doesn't do what's asked. Crux. Crux pauses for a moment, asking, Crux? No one knows that name. No one except, oh, this is Rich. Crux lunges forward, breaking through his chains, grabbing the doctor by the neck, asking, you came back? For what? Mock my imprisonment? Threaten me? Jason's disguise fades and he says, no, I'm here because I need you. I need some information that's floating around that big scaly head of yours. Crux opens his mouth to bite down on Jason, but Jason takes out a knife, stabbing it into Crux's tongue. As Crux swings, knocking Jason back, Jason says, that's gratitude for you. Probably could have planned that one out a bit better. But just before landing, Crux flies up, grabbing Jason, telling him, you're not going anywhere. After everything you and your friends did, Crux spins back, throwing Jason through a stone wall, asking, did you think it was going to be over already? So a short while later, Jason opens up his eyes to find himself strapped to a chair, with the only comment being, well, this is a bit strange. Care to explain what's going on? Crux, now back in his human form, says that it's really not all that mysterious. Once he's shapeshifted back to his original, more spectacular form, he needed to find something to wear. Shirt from him, pants from Arsenal, but don't worry. Didn't put on the hood. Probably booby-trapped, right? Jason tells him, of course it is. The question is, why aren't I dead? Let's face it, leaving me alive is a bad idea for you. Crux leans forward, unlocking the restraints, telling him, I wanted to thank you. And he hugs Jason. You're welcome? Crux tells him, yes, all that education, brilliance, my parents' resources. I was focused on eliminating all traces of alien life on Earth. I'd probably be dead if not for the 3 of you and your unorthodox intervention. Jason asks, the one where he drugged you, knocked you out, and took you to Arkham against your will? That intervention? Crux tells him, yeah, I wasn't happy, sure. But between the drugs and the therapy I received, I was in fact cured. I can think again, clearly, and I realize that I've been a real jerk trying to see revenge on people who weren't even responsible for the death of my parents. And sorry about that back there, I kind of lost control. You saw a bit of me in the Crux state, but I need to focus on the positive. While I was here, I tried to make amends by sneaking around the asylum. I used my multiple degrees to finally do some good in the world. Jason asks, So you were posing as a crazy bat dragon so you could skulk around playing doctor? And you don't have a problem? But just as Crux goes to answer, he forms another torso from his back, and he grabs the arrow pointed at him, telling him, "It would seem that Arsenal here is much less trusting on my new outlook on life. Which is fine, considering I tried to kill each of you last time we met." Roy asks, "How are you doing this? Didn't you used to be a dragon?" Crux tells him, "In part, yes, I took the DNA from multiple sources, Man-Bat, Killer Croc, and Clayface to name a few." Jason then says, "I cannot tell you enough how creepy shape-shifting is." Crux tosses Roy's arrow as he gets into the pilot seat, and Jason says, "I'm surprised it took you this long to show up." Roy tells him that he was busy trying to locate Starfire once he was better. But his usual way of locating her isn't working, and Crux says that that's not a problem. "I've tracked people from Tamarin and other races for half my life. I'm confident that I can locate her within a quarter mile. I just need you to do something for me." Jason asks, "What's that?" And Crux hits the throttle, telling him, "Buckle up." Meanwhile, out in the middle of the Brazilian rainforest, Starfire sits by a tree chained up. As she sits there, a panther walks by and begins to sniff her. It steps back hissing, and Starfire lunges at it screaming, but before he can grab it, the chain snaps, slamming her into the ground. Starfire looks at the chain, trying to burn it, but nothing happens. She screams in frustration as she falls to the ground and she looks up. "You? Am I dreaming?" She blinks to see her sister, Blackfire, Commander, standing before her, and Blackfire says, "I'm sorry that it came to this, but if anyone's going to at long last put you out of your misery, be glad it's your sister." Starfire stumbles back, asking, "Blackfire? You rule all of Tamarin. How did you get here?" She holds out her glaive, telling her, "That is a longer story than you might imagine. But get down!" She tackles Starfire to the ground as a group of Citadel fly overhead, and Starfire quietly asks, "How are they here? How is that even possible?" Commander uses her powers to put Starfire asleep, telling her that she needs to rest. Everything will be all right. And as Starfire slowly passes out, she is mortified that her sister found her so weak. Commander, aka Blackfire, holds Starfire's head, telling her, "Never. You have been, and always will be, the bravest, most courageous person ever. And that is why I am here, because you need help." Elsewhere, Crux lands his ship in the forest, telling them, "Here we are!" Jason tells him that he says that like it's supposed to mean something. And Crux says, "Well, based on my knowledge of all things Tamarin, I could guess approximately where she should be. And I have, give or take, 7.2 million square miles to guess with here." Before they get out, an alarm goes off and the ship is hit by a missile. Crux transforms, grabbing Roy and calling out to Jason, asking, "Where are you?" But that's when Crux is shot in the back, falling to the ground with a loud thump. A woman with white hair steps out and looks around, stating, "Come on, show me some smoldering limbs, a melted red helmet, something. Where did you... Oh, you're right behind me, aren't you?" Jason pulls the hammer back in his gun, telling her, "Hello, Rose. Love that mask." Rose spins back, kicking the gun from Jason's hand, telling her, "I considered a heart tattoo that said Jason with an axe hacking it in two." Jason drops to the ground, swiping out Rose's legs, stating, "Would you care to explain why you're trying to kill us? Last thing I remember, you had a big, satisfying smile on your face." Rose falls onto Jason, telling her, "I was being polite. Besides, I'm here on business. You and your friends are a distraction, an impossibly adorable, positively scrumptious distraction." But while they're fighting in another part of this forest, Blackfire hooks up Starfire to a Tamaranian machine, telling her that she's so sorry. So many times that she has failed her. She can't even protect her own people. How is she supposed to protect her sister? Starfire smiles and weakly says, "Nonsense. Every day, my every thought. You were there." She then begins to get back up, stating that they need to go find the Citadel, find them and kill them. Blackfire sits back down, telling her that they will. There will be blood, but she must rest. Every warrior needs her strength. As Starfire sits back down, she hugs Blackfire, telling her thank you. And then Commander's tone changes as she asks, "What was that back there? You were drugged out of your skull. You're too strong to be an addict." Starfire rolls over, telling her that she learned her tormentor was hiding on Earth. He could not have come here without support, the infrastructure. It comes through the black market drug trader. She wanted to get those responsible by working her way to the upper echelon, but it was a foolish risk, and the only thing she did was destroy their base. Commander grabs her battlegear, telling her that they could talk about it later. The machine will flush out the drug, and she won't be long. Elsewhere in the forest, Roy asks why they're bringing her along. She did try to kill them, and Rose says that she would just cut his head off if he tried to stop her. Jason then yells, "If you don't stop, I'm gonna shoot you both." Rose then goes on stating that she is tracking Starfire because the little princess ticked off a lot of wealthy people, which means the bounty is very high. Starfire calls out that she won't be able to spend that money when she's dead. And as the two charge at each other, Roy asks, how long is this going to take? Jason tells him, about 3 seconds, Roy. Rose is thrown into a tree, and Roy says that he was only off by 3 seconds. Starfire then flies over, kissing Roy, stating that she is so sorry about what happened. She almost killed him, didn't she? Roy tells her that she didn't do it on purpose. Just let's never talk about it again unless he does something really wrong and needs her to forgive him. Jason then tells everyone that they need to get to the bottom of this and get home. As far as she can tell, Starfire has been on the trail of the same people who hired Rose to stop her. Rose then asks, are you saying that the people that hired me are involved in an intergalactic drug trade? But before Jason could answer, Crux yells, you're gonna need to see this! It's imperative! Everyone looks over the ledge and they see the White Citadel fleet gathering on the ground, and Roy says, oh, it can't get any worse than that, right? And right behind them is the leader of that army. Jason turns back, opening fire, stating, I can only assume that you're Hellspawn. Hellspawn laughs, telling him, oh, that is completely ineffective, and nothing less than I have come to expect from you Earthers. Jason tells him, true, but you wouldn't respect me if I didn't try. Starfire flies up, telling everyone to get back. Hellspawn is the most vile, genocidal warlord in the entire universe. But before she can attack, an arrow lands straight into Hellspawn's chest. And he asks, really? That is almost too adorable to take offense. As he finishes, the arrow discharges an electrical blast, with Starfire following up with an attack of her own. But through the fire, Hellspawn punches into the ground, igniting a massive blue explosion, telling everyone, I'm used to being challenged by warriors. Only Earthers assume to send children. Rose throws her swords into Hellspawn's chest, but as he pulls them out, he laughs, and they begin to deteriorate. Soon the Citadel surround the group, and a voice says, that is enough. Your next move against our liege will be your last. Everyone stops upon hearing the voice, and Jason says, oh, I am so sorry. Commander steps out, stating that there is no need to feel bad for her sister. There is a war coming, albeit a brief, one-sided war. And as a responsibility to her people, she is obligated to side with the ultimate victor. Rose laughs, telling Starfire, you got yourself some sister. I didn't realize you came from a family of losers. Hellspawn calls out that the people of Tamarin were wise to align themselves with his wishes. In exchange for their commander-in-chief, he will grant them their relative freedom. A generous offer that he is not making to the people of Earth. Crux looks back at one of the Citadel soldiers and states, that is interesting. Commander kneels down before Hellspawn, telling him that the Citadel is ready to act at his command. She only asks that he spares the life of her misguided sister. Hellspawn tells her perhaps, but unlikely. Crux whispers to Jason that he has been studying aliens his whole life, and one of them was the Citadel. The breastplates that they wear are wired directly into their brains and each other. Jason asks if he's stating that they can take them down with a switch, and Crux says, if given the opportunity, yes. So Jason steps forward, telling Hellspawn, I need to put this into perspective. You're getting a little flaming ahead of yourself. So how about we clear things up? This planet doesn't belong to you. Not yet, not ever. Hellspawn laughs. I cannot take another moment, Commander. You know what to do. At that moment, Commander releases all of her black firepower into Hellspawn, creating a massive explosion from within his body. Hellspawn grabs her by the hair, yelling, how dare you, and throws her across the street. Jason shoots out the legs of one of the Citadel soldiers, stating, this one's all yours. And Crux begins to rewire the breastplate, telling him, I'm gonna need about 5 minutes. And Rose yells at him, you have 2! Starfire flies in, hitting Hellspawn, screaming that she could kill him for hurting Commander. But Hellspawn tells her that that is impossible. And then he's hit with an explosion as Starfire turns to see where it came from. And Jason runs up holding a giant blaster, telling her, go find your sister. She takes off for the skies, following the crater left by Commander's landing. And when she finds her, she finds the lifeless body on the ground. She screams loud enough for the people on the battlefield to hear her. And Jason pauses as he listens. And in that moment of hesitation, Hellspawn grabs him by the throat, telling him, you will pay attention. But as all of the Citadel aim at Jason, all of their heads suddenly burst into flames. Hellspawn says that he will die, knowing that their victory means nothing. There are more soldiers where they came from. There are more powerful weapons in this universe than even you could imagine, Jason Todd. And at that moment, there's a thundering boom that deafens everyone as a beam of concentrated fire turns Hellspawn's body to ash. Jason falls to the ground, and as he looks up, he sees Roy riding one of the Citadel tanks, and he gives a wave. A short while later, at Commander's ship, Starfire tends to her sister, stating that they are resilient people. If they can get her home in time, they might be able to save her. Jason tells her that if there's anything that they can do, but Starfire stops him, stating that they'll be fine. Crux will pilot the ship so that she can stay by her sister's side. And as Jason and Roy step out, Starfire tells them thank you. And Roy asks, for what? She says for letting her do this alone. It's a family matter. She hugs Jason. She gives Roy a kiss. And Roy asks if she'll remember him. And she tells him, forever in a day. As Commander's ship begins to take off, Roy tells Jason that he should probably go on ahead without him. He's gonna check for spoils of war, destroy what's left. Jason says that he understands and it's a good idea. So the two hug one last time, and Roy heads back to the battlefield alone. He looks at Jason and tells him that it's okay if he needs a minute. That couldn't have been easy, having lost his team. And Jason laughs, stating that they weren't a team. They were friends, helping each other pick up the pieces of their lives. They were the Outlaws. I hope you guys enjoyed today's full story. On this channel, we re-upload our full stories from the Comicstorian main channel. That way, if you just only want full stories, you have a channel that delivers those to you. If you enjoy this, please consider liking and subscribing, and please consider checking out our main channel to see the more up-to-date things. I'll see you guys next time right here.